back to your telephone calls on this Christmas Eve. Lou, line 3, Long Island. What's on your mind, Lou?
Dominic, I had a joyful morning. I staple an envelope to my trash bag for the sanitation men, excuse me. And I have to have having my coffee. Yeah, it's a profession. And I happen to have my coffee in the living room. And the sanitation man comes up, grabs the envelope, and he jumps off his feet, and he's waving it in the air. Thank you, thank you. And it just made me feel happy, appreciate it. He didn't even know what was in the envelope. It could be $1, but just the fact that, I don't know, maybe I appreciated him, and it just made me feel good that he was happy.
And that's a wonderful story to hear, Lou. I try to
hello, Chickabee
people
Radio,
to pick up the garbage. I think they come on Mondays and Thursdays, so they'll be
Happy
here
Christmas
on
Eve.
Years. And I'll
you're doing
be
well.
at work with you folks, and my kids will be at the Knicks game. But I got to figure out something to do for the people that come by and pick up the garbage as well. Lou, that's a wonderful story. Thank you very much. Let's go to line 4, Patrick in Indiana. What's on your mind, Patrick?
Yes. My point tonight is that somebody there at ABC, somebody that has Donald Trump's father, should call him and tell him about the Constitution. He is not enforcing the Constitution.
Patrick, I'm sorry. There is nothing he can do about Mamdani as of right now. What has Mamdani done to violate the Constitution?
Let me explain and you'll hear.
No, I'm short on time. I can't let you go on forever. That's why I entered. That's why. Okay, I'm going to say again, thank you for the call, Patrick. Thank you for the call. I'm going to say again, there's nothing Mamdani has done as of yet in which the president can intercede and get involved. If that's the case, he would have done so with Ilhan Omar. But with her situation, apparently the time lapse of when you can get involved has elapsed. You just can't just say wave a wand, President Trump, make him go away. That's ridiculous. Life doesn't work that way. Now maybe Mamdani will do something, but as of right now, he has not done anything to be removed from office. He has not even taken office as of yet. Paul in Connecticut.
It's a nice listening area.
What's on your mind?
For me to wait.
Hi, good morning, Dominic. I'd just like to say my heart goes out to Tony, and maybe when he goes down there, he should hire a taxi driver to bring him around. If in Texas, I went there once. It's kind of far out state, and everybody seemed a little hot-headed down there. But
Tony went to college down there. Well, thank you. Tony went to college there, so he's right. Tony, you're very familiar.
Yeah, I'm familiar, and I worked in radio down there for a couple of years, so I know how to get around. Mm-hmm. But thank you, though.
Hey, Paul, thank you for that. Let's go to Pete, New Jersey. Quickly, Pete, you got 20 seconds. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. A big part of our assignment in life is to learn for certain that you are poor in spirit. And the closer we're able to get to that learning, especially this time of the year, the December solstice, all of these holidays and hullabaloo, and be poor in spirit, and you will be more in harmony with the truth.
I hear you. I don't know exactly what you mean by poor in spirit, but I'll be back 3 p.m.
77 WABC's Staten Island law firm of Anjuli and Gentili chime time is 12:59.
The Staten Island law firm of Anjuli and Gentili, helping people just like you for 40 years. Walk with confidence. Call 718-816-0005 or visit aglawnyc.com.
This is New York's talk leader, the crown jewel of talk radio. WABC New York, WRCR Haverstraw, and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays. News first at 59 past the hour.
77 WABC News starts now.
Cloudy skies on this Wednesday, December 24th. Good morning, I'm Lisa Ritchie. A new batch of files from the Jeffrey Epstein case is out. Monica Nelson reports.
Overnight, the Department of Justice made more than 11,000 files available in its latest release, including court records, emails, videos, and news clippings. The DOJ was required to release all documents by December 19th under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, but officials say they've been coming out in batches due to the high volume and need redact information to protect victims. The newest release is titled Dataset 8 and can be found on the DOJ's repository website. More information will be provided as the documents are reviewed. I'm Monica Nelson.
Police have made an arrest in the murder of Broadway actress Imani Diaz-Smith. She was killed inside her home in Edison, New Jersey. Smith starred on Broadway as Nala in The Lion King. Jordan D. Jackson Small has been charged in her stabbing death. Prosecutors believe Small was her boyfriend. A third Marjorie Stoneman High School student who survived the 2018 mass shooting has committed suicide. Donovan Mettayer, a senior at the time of the shooting in Parkland,
smash the like
Florida,
button. Thank you.
took
13
his own
people
life
watching.
at the age
Smash
of
the like button. Thank
26
you.
after a 7-year battle with schizophrenia.
Tomorrow is the
Like
day I
New Jersey
order my
is going
TIA
to
radio.
follow New
I'm going to
York's
get
example
another
when it comes
PC
to banning
for the service because
cell
my
phone
brother
use
took
in
my
schools.
Chromebook.
James Flippin
I
has
found a
more.
good Windows laptop on eBay for $40, and hopefully I'll get it up.
That
Yeah,
requires the State Department of
pretty cool.
Education to come up with guidelines restricting student use of internet-enabled devices in
Nice.
classrooms during the school day. This would be for all grades, K through 12. Governor Murphy
Nice, I
has
like buying
previously
people.
expressed support for this legislation, expected to sign it before he leaves office. Educational experts say phones have become a major distraction
much
and that social media in
watching,
particular
and
is
smash the
causing
like button.
harm in learning environments.
Appreciate it very much, and
James
Merry
Flippin
Christmas,
for
everybody.
77
Happy
WABC
Christmas
News.
Eve.
New York Governor
Merry
Kathy Hochul
Christmas.
is
Love you all.
fuming after
You guys are the
President
best.
Trump halted 5 offshore wind projects, including a large one off of Long Island. She says this puts thousands out of work.
Their holiday ruined because they're now going to be losing their jobs. I just want the Trump administration to know the widespread effect this is going to have on our economy.
The $5 billion Empire Wind project is projected to power 500,000 homes through clean, renewable energy. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum says the lease is being paused due to national security concerns. Cops are searching for a garbage truck driver who crashed into
Happy New Year.
scaffolding
Yeah,
in
Happy New
East
Year to you too,
Harlem,
my friend.
killing a woman
I'm
and
charging
injuring
up my
4 others
Q-Dose
Tuesday
into it,
morning.
the X286.
She was standing underneath the scaffold on
Right now I'm
First
charging
Avenue
it
at
up.
101st Street. Neighbors say the victim was a longtime resident.
I'm blown away. I can't really fathom how it happened.
Plasma Zombie. Hello and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Dutch music transmitters on around 1610
Surveillance video
and
shows the garbage
1665
truck owned by
kilohertz.
Classic Recycling
Oh, cool.
slamming into a vehicle that was double parked, striking several
Hello.
other vehicles and crashing into
Plasma
the scaffolding.
Zombie.
Former conservative lawyer George Conway is running for a
Happy
vacant New
Christmas
York
Eve.
House seat.
Well, yeah.
Conway
Merry
filed
Christmas
paperwork
Eve.
to run for Congress in New York City as a Democrat, but he has not formally launched a congressional bid or commented on it publicly. He plans to run in the crowded primary for the 12th Congressional District, which is currently represented by Congressman Jerry Nadler, who is not seeking re-election. So how did all this hoopla on New Year's Eve start in Times Square? Lisa G tells us.
The celebration started in 1904 at the New York Times building in the triangle between Broadway and 7th Avenue. There was no ball drop to usher in 1905, but fireworks that were shot off from the roof. The following year, the newspaper switched to a display of flashing lights, and according to the paper back then, the hysterical crowd on the street got even more hysterical. And it was in 1907 that the Times put up a pole on top of the building, and that started the tradition of the ball drop. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
Organizers are preparing for the annual reenactment of General George Washington's famous Christmas Day crossing of the Delaware River.
Oh
during
yeah,
the
I
Revolutionary
have
War.
several
The
SDRs.
reenactment draws thousands of people to the
I
banks
have
of the
the
Delaware
SDR
just
player
north of Trenton
RSP1.
every year on Christmas.
I have
This
the
holiday season,
RSPDX.
77 WABC
I have the
Radio
RTL
Foundation to
SDR.
save those in need. Go to
I have the
WABCFoundationCares.com. Join 77 WABC
HF Discovery.
AARP New York City, the
Or
Ladies
HF Plus
Athletic
Discovery.
League, Christie's,
I have
and
that one.
D'Agostino supermarkets, and nationwide
So,
imaging services.
I plan to put
as
that
we
one
deliver
online soon
holiday
again.
meals to more than 5,000 families across the city.
But I want to do it with a
Giving back
Linux
to
box
those in need.
because
Go
my
to
Windows computer
WABCFoundationCares.com.
keeps crashing the
77
software.
WABC
Yeah, and it's very good.
In sports,
S5
Steelers
HF Plus is
star
very
DK
good.
Metcalf is done. for the
Very
regular
sensitive
season.
receiver,
The
very
NFL
good.
suspended the receiver for Pittsburgh's last 2 games for throwing a punch at a fan during
My favorite
Sunday's game
SDR of
against
all the
the
ones I
Lions
have
in
right now is the
Detroit.
RSPDX.
He is appealing that suspension. Your
Because
forecast overnight,
that one has
low
3
clouds
antenna
and fog
inputs.
With a little bit of clearing towards morning.
Has 3
but
antenna
windy,
inputs.
The low 35
The
degrees.
the
Later on
SDR
today, mostly sunny
Play
and breezy with a high of 43.
RSPDX.
For your Christmas day on Thursday, mostly cloudy with a high of.
Let me lower that.
So I think
Sorry.
Santa will do just fine.
What antenna I use for the S5 for medium wave? Well, I had it hooked up with the MFJ 1886 loop.
Remember the news.
MFJ 1886 active loop antenna. That is my best antenna for medium wave DXing. I also have MLA 30. I have 3 of them. 3 MLA 30s. I have 2 MFJ 1886 loops. I have 3 MLA 30s. I have an end-fed antenna, 80 feet of wire. Yeah, MFJ 1886. 1886. It's kind of like the cheap man's Wellbrook. It's not as good as a Wellbrook, but it's aluminum. It is sensitive. It's very good on short wave, very good on medium wave. It's okay on long wave, but I don't get long wave over here anymore. In America, we don't get much long wave anymore. So yeah, I have about 80 feet of copper wire to end fed, but I want to use for my ham radio. So yeah. My copyright. There goes my copyright. Copyright notice. There we go.
Alrighty, happy New Year. I mean, New Year. What am I saying? Christmas Eve, ladies and germs. That is right. It is New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve? What the hell are you saying?
You
mean Christmas
next
Eve?
week. I mean, just the next 2 days. I like some people who are off like 2 weeks, a week. I've never done 2 weeks in my life. I don't even know what that means. Why? Because I'm an idiot, I guess. But in any event, but we are here, and we're going to have an insightful, and important, and a critical time. But in view of what this day means, it is
25-meter long copper wire works good. Yeah,
This is
yeah.
Christmas Eve, and let me just bring to the forefront.
Longer the better for
wife,
medium
my
wave.
beloved, my betrothed, the.
I wish I could
founder,
put like a
executive director of
200-meter
Living Warrior.
wire
This is always our
in
warrior.
my bag, but I don't have that
We're
much
gonna be
space.
doing that, of course, but in a little bit of a more festive. Not that it's not festive, because truth, I think, is always entertaining. But my darling, welcome to your day. This is Warrior Wednesday.
Well, Merry Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve, not New Year's. You're rushing it. You're rushing
I
it.
know.
Let us enjoy.
And leave the Russians out of this, please. They go through enough.
And Christmas Day. And, you
Leave
know,
the
I'm
Russians out
just
of it.
thrilled to be here. And thank you for showcasing what we talk about. Because we do talk of the Warriors. It's tough stuff, but the public has to know about it.
Well, before we do that, there's a
will
lot
not
to
cover it. So this is urgent and critical and crucial. But in the meantime, yes, let's talk about, you know what, let's start out with what we did this evening.
I was going to say that. First of all, it was
This is a few minutes.
By the way,
Let me put it up a little
you
bit.
know,
into one.
just so that you know, if any of us, either of us, are unable, you worked all day yesterday. You had, at least I could have some momentary napping. But, and when I was walking out this morning, bless your heart, you're sitting there at your desk, and it's like, I was like, oh, you're like your head in your hand. It's like, we're exhausted. I'd like to see somebody 20 years old do this. There's no way. So in the event that I perhaps say something which is completely untoward, discombobulated, that has no rhyme or reason, please forgive me, I am sleep deprived. But let's talk about the premiere, the gala last night, and what that was in all of its glory as we were ensconced in all that is New York. Tell us about this, what a night it was.
Well, we went to a wonderful movie premiere of Marty Supreme, starring John Catsimatidis of WABC and all this fame. And I have to share something with you. First of all, let's talk about the movie a little bit. Based on a true story, loosely, based on a book, okay? I have to tell you, I thought John was incredibly so natural.
Well, let me say, stop right there, stop. Somebody's going to say, you know what? You're saying this just because he's your boss and he owns the station. No, because let me tell you what we would do.
Because I wouldn't say anything.
Not exactly. If I thought he was stiff, I'll tell you who I thought was stiff, this Kevin O'Leary. Why he was there, and there were some others. I'm not going to.
This is Christmas Eve. The movie,
he was stiff. O'Leary was not. There was anybody could have done. I mean, come on, Yuri could have done it for God's sake. That's how.
Now,
the man hasn't blinked in a year.
Let's be positive.
I'm kidding.
Timothy Chalamet, he's done a lot of work for a young actor. You know, he played Bob Dylan fairly recently in that movie.
Well, let me tell you very quickly though, before we get what John Catsimatidis did, and this is like I said, believe me, if I thought he was stiff, I wouldn't say anything.
Sorry, I'm doing this. Let me go scroll here.
But the hardest thing to do, believe it or not, and everybody will tell you this in this way.
Everything why is hardly visible, but works on our yeah.
Is that cisgender? In any event, I think one of the most difficult things to do is to listen. When somebody's talking to you, it's very easy for you to be listening. Okay, what's my next line? What am I doing? What am I saying?
And you radio. I'm upgrading my. Let me load this. I'm sorry, I'm talking over it. It's driving me. I'm upgrading my TF web server antenna with a Yagi FM antenna. Cool. Maybe that's something you look for you better than. Yeah, well, right now I have that one, but that's my amateur radio one. That's the one I use for my. But then that one is fine. But I want to put a longer antenna, a longer wire, facing the opposite direction. Right now I have my NFET is going like north to south configuration, but I want to make another long wire antenna east to west, very long. I want to go like at least 100 meters. So I can do medium wave DXing on that one. That would be great. But I have to be careful because I'm running over outside my yard into city property. And I don't know if you see my videos. It's just, it's just a bunch of woods. But it's not my property. It's the city of Yonkers. So that's why I have to be careful with that. Yeah. So hello from South Dakota, KC0CCB99. Hello. Yeah, kind of like a beverage antenna. I mean, not exactly beverage, because beverage you have to terminate it and all that. So, I'm not gonna do all that. I just wanna have a long wire with an NFET, and with an onion. Basically, that's all. I do have a setup where I can do a beverage. But I could do like what they call a mini beverage. I also have a setup where I can do what they call a CAS antenna. I was gonna do something called a CAS or a double CAS, but right now I can't do it. It's too much. There's not enough space in my yard to do all that. I wish I can, but I can't. My antenna will point north toward Vermont, New Hampshire, so you will hear Vermont. Yeah, that'd be nice because unfortunately the other Chicopee, yeah, exactly. You know what you should do? Exactly, that's what you should do. The other two, Massachusetts or Hartford, the other Connecticut guy, whatever, they're all pointing into New York City and all that, I believe. So you should point the opposite. I would like to hear Vermont, New Hampshire, maybe even Canada. So I would totally do the opposite. That way, because right now you guys are, because right now when you look at the map, you guys are all bunched up. It's three servers right there bunched up. So it's kind of like, okay, which one's going to separate from the other ones? So if I was me, if it was me, I would have said, okay, I'm going to separate them I'm going to point in the opposite direction and let people try to DX into Canada, basically, or Maine, something like that. You know what I mean? I know Mike is pointing toward New York City, I believe. FN32, I don't know, I forgot what he's pointing to, but I would definitely point it the other way. Just, because you want to separate yourself. You want to say, okay, if I want to hear Vermont, I'm gonna go check out Chicopee server or Canada. If I want to hear New York City, they can go to mine. Or Jersey. You know what I'm saying? They're all close enough. So that's why I would do something really different, radical. I would definitely point it somewhere else. That way you're different from the other two. Because right now you guys are all bunched up. Yeah, exactly. If there's trees, wire can go over. Exactly. And I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Yeah. So that's what I would do. Because you guys are very close proximity. So like right now, for example, right now, my antenna, right? Well, not the loop, but when I had the FM in the summertime, when I had the FM antenna, I was pointing north, actually. Like the FM dipole, I was pointing north. Because I wanted people to get Poughkeepsie and further up Albany and all that. That's why that was my aim. So when I get my Yagi, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna point it north, or even let me see here. Probably go northeast or something. I'm gonna do something like that. I don't want to point it back into the city because I get the city on the back end anyway. The city's so powerful. Where I'm at, the city's so powerful, it doesn't matter. I still get it. Right now, even the loop. The city's so powerful. New York City stations are so powerful. Even a loop antenna that's not meant for FM, you hear a lot of the stations, right? So even with a loop antenna. So I definitely will point it to another market. And then, people can DX that. And then that'll make your server more unique, for especially DXers. They'll say, "Oh yeah, this guy's pointing to Vermont," whatever. I wouldn't do the rotor thing because the rotor thing's overrated. To be honest, the rotor thing is overrated, especially when you're in an area where you have a bunch of people there already. Like you already have two competing web servers next to you. So I would definitely point the opposite of them. You understand? That's what I would do. Like if anybody ever had another New York City's web server, I would still point it away from New York City. I don't want to point it in New York City because I hear that every day. I don't want to hear that. I want to point it away because I want to. I'm doing it for myself. I pointed to. I may rotate the antenna when I get the Yagi and point it toward west. Go west to see if I can get a lot of New Jersey stations. And then even Pennsylvania, like that. But there's a lot of, you play around with it. But definitely, see, my goal is to get upstate New York, Albany, and then go into Canada. Like a long, type deal, whatever. But that's it. When I get Philly, that's on the back end. When you hear Philly, I'm not pointing directly in Philly. You're getting that on the back end of the antenna. You understand? So that's why, when I get WGBH in Boston, that's on the side. That's like the broadside of the antenna. I'm not even pointing it to Boston. And I'll get Boston. when it's really good. So, that's what I would do. I would definitely separate from the other two and do something like that. Point into a area where they're not pointing to, and that way people can go and say, okay, they want to listen to this section, like Vermont or whatever. Like you said, New Hampshire, go to his server. If they want to listen to New York City, they can go to this guy's server, or they can go to my server when I'm on. That's, you know what I'm saying? It's like there's already a bunch of New York City close enough servers. So, yeah, that's what I would do. Let me see what else. I want to see if there's anything else. Okay, I'm going to put the radio back on, and let me shut up for a few minutes.
Basics of what we do at the Warriors, I'm trying to get into the public, but organ harvesting, organ trafficking, such a big business, not only in China, but also in the United States. But China, I mean, they are known for that, okay? And also Americans and other countries, people seeking out, kind of black market. You need a lung? Oh, okay, we know where to get you one if you have the right amount of money. So we have a lot of dark things going on. We also have tremendous human trafficking. People who are trafficked and put in warehouses, chained to tables and chairs, that are then forced to do these scams, this pig butchering. Do you know what I mean by that?
No.
The pig butchering, where there are so many scams going on online, right? Fueled by the internet, online, on our phones, everywhere. They call it pig butchering. It's not very nice, but that is what it's called. Fattening up the victim and then moving him for the kill.
Ooh, so stop right there. Stop for a second. We have to take a hard break as it were. Ooh, that's a very serious tease. We're talking to Lynn Shaw, my beloved, my wife, from Lynn'sWarriors.org. This isn't what's the ventilation. This is Warrior Wednesday, and this is also the other side of midnight with Lionel.
The other side of midnight with Lionel.
You can go on my FM DX web server. It's Danny Radio and Tech in Yonkers, New York. My server's online right now. You can check that out if you want to hear FM and all that. Right here, I just have it locked in on this one. I don't want to tune FM on this one because this radio, it's okay. It's not a very good radio, to be honest. So I'm not going to tune FM on this. It's just not worth it. Plus, I'm in the basement. So if you want to hear FM, go to that server if nobody's on, and you can listen to my online FMDX web server, the TF6686 radio. I have it online right now.
The good news is there's a nutrient hiding in plain sight that helps rebuild bone density and stop bone loss. Blow your doctor away with your next DEXA scan results. Just go to getnativepath.com/go and get up to 45% off today. GETNATIVEPATH.com/go. There's a lot to like about 77 WABC. Talk radio. Like New York's #1 News Talk morning radio show.
Sid Friends in the morning, waking you up weekdays at 6.
Like the best talk lineup in talk. Plus 77 WABC news updates around the clock. Like on weekends, we dance to the music with Cousin Brucey. Cousin Bruce Morrow. And so much more. 77 WABC.
Hi, this is Dick Morris. When it comes to real estate in Connecticut and New York, nobody understands the market like Joe Melillo. Whether you're selling, buying,
Well, the only thing on FM right now, there's a lot of Christmas stations, Christmas music, excuse me. A lot of people seem to like 106.7 because a few people go to my server and they put it on 106.7 and they leave it there. So apparently that's the best Christmas music they can hear. That's audio-wise, quality. So a lot of people seem to use that frequency a lot on my FM server.
It's the other side of midnight with Lionel.
That's right. This is Warrior Wednesday with my wife, Lynn Shaw. By the way, I'm just looking up. It says can't believe I'm looking at this. It says, CNN, Marty Supreme starts strong in limited release. It says, John Catsimatidis, hailed by critics, tour de force, modern-day Olivier. Okay, I added that, but it was, again, hailed by critics. Now, we're talking, you mentioned this, and I had never heard this term before, pig butchering. And by the way, it's defined as, in human trafficking, refers to the long con exploitation, often labeled by law enforcement as romance trafficking, coercive fraud trafficking. What it means is, the phrase comes from Chinese organized crime slang. The victim is fattened up emotionally and psychologically through trust, romance, or mentorship before being financially or physically exploited. So it's not mere, it sounds like you're actually getting them physically fatter. You're building up the levels of trust, and then they move in for the kill.
Absolutely. And I don't feel bad, Lionel, because I also learned all of this from our great colleagues at the Brooklyn DA's office. And when they were explaining and teaching me all about this, they also told me they have a division that deals with this pig butchering exclusively. And despite, they have numerous, attorneys working on this, and they said they go around the clock. They cannot keep up with how much of this there is. It is escalating. It's out of control, and it just keeps going. So, in other words, are the warriors. And by the way, when you play our theme song, I just imagine myself when I go to Washington saying, I want everybody, and I'm marching to the theme song, I want everybody to be a warrior. I want everybody to listen up and listen good. But I mean it when I say this, because we must start in our own home with ourselves, being educated, knowing what's going on, right? And then, obviously, if we have kids and grandkids, family members, talk to them. But this pig butchering is a very serious thing. And why it's escalating is because the public feeds into it. Now, I'm not judging. It's because the public doesn't realize, an elderly woman or man who gets, a call about, your loan is approved. This one is going on all over lately.
By the way, I'm getting these. Have you guys noticed this? Are you getting texting from, we're approving you for a loan from this financial? It's like, I'm like, well, who?
Okay, but here's what's happening. So every 10th person will address that. It'll say, call this number or text us back. So if somebody calls, this elderly person or a regular person, I shouldn't just say elderly, and says, I didn't apply for that loan. What are you talking about? Well, isn't your phone numbers? Yes, it is. Well, let's confirm your bank account. Very easily, they're stealing all our information. So they keep doing it because people keep feeding into it naively. So there's so many the romance scams are out of control.
What are those?
Well, that's, for instance, it's always been known in the cruise industry that, believe it or not, a lot of these men working in the cruise industry will cozy up to women on these cruises.
Didn't we know somebody like that? Or we're not going to mention the names, but there was one.
No, we're not mentioning names. I'm just saying, and I heard about this, actually, a friend of my mother's years ago. Okay.
Yes.
I believe happened to her. And then I had another friend maybe 20 years ago where they think the guy's in love with them, and they start sending, remember when we had phone cards?
Yes.
We're sending the phone cards, and then it's the gift cards, and then it's all kinds of...
Well, we even know tangentially, I'm not going to go into names, obviously, but one guy who was this guy is like zeroes in on rich widows, and I mean, it's like, you hussy, you. And I mean, I never, because you always think about women being predatory, and for good reason, just kidding, kind of. But men out there,
men are equally. Let's say, come on now.
And in the retirement communities,
predation.
Remember the STD stories in retirement communities? These people are like rabbits. I mean, this.
Well, I mean, that's still going on. But here's why we're talking about this. We're talking about this to raise the awareness. I'm very serious about that. Don't answer phone numbers. I'm not kidding. That if somebody wants you, they'll leave you a message. right? Don't answer strange phone numbers. Don't answer strange emails.
Yep.
Don't. I know it sounds very elementary.
I got a lot of that
don't
now.
answer. Don't click on. Look at this. Don't be swayed and taken in.
Thanks to
if it,
YouTube, I get a lot of that.
please Call and Chase Bank. Please call and confirm your account.
WhatsApp, I get blown up on that too.
Everybody be vigilant
I really take down my
and
WhatsApp.
very aware of what is going on. And again, there are so many
I get hit like
scammers
crazy.
and predators out there because they're getting away with it. And that brings me to our children, because the predators basically are getting away with it, especially fueled by the internet where we don't have any regulation. So they're going to keep going and up the ante and take. So that brings me, I do want to discuss TikTok, okay?
Please.
Because TikTok, listen, kids, basically, 8 to 18, we'll put it like that, their top favorite platforms are Snap. I still call it Snapchat, but the kids call it Snap, YouTube, and TikTok. On any given day in America, close to 200 million people are on TikTok. A large percentage of those kids. Okay?
Snapchat is whack.
So
I don't like it.
here's the thing I want everybody to know about TikTok. It is not designed with children's well-being as the priority, as are most other of the big tech platforms. But TikTok in particular, it's designed for engagement, retention, monetization. Remember, everybody, making money off of us.
Yep.
So the president announced on December 18th that there is a new deal. And this deal was the concern that started under the Biden administration that TikTok, owned by China, okay, its parent company called ByteDance, right, for TikTok, that was a national security threat, that they're infiltrating, into our country. They're infiltrating into our minds. They're putting propaganda on TikTok. In any of that discussion, starting with the Biden administration, there was never discussion about what about the harms to kids? What about this Chinese company, TikTok, infiltrating our children's minds like that? That was never brought up at all about safety for our kids. Now, fast forward, President Trump, 3 times, I believe, he delayed. He wanted to divest and have, let me make it simple, divest from China and form an American company that would handle TikTok. He didn't want to, remember they were saying that it's going to be banned. Nothing was ever going to be banned. Anything that makes billions and trillions of dollars is never getting banned in our country, okay? There was never a ban. But this delay went on and on and on. And then very quietly, on December 18th, I found this little announcement that an agreement was in the works, this binding agreement, with Oracle and Silver Lake, and a lot of these big, hedge fund type people, that they were going to divest now and figure out a way. Now, this is the important part of all of this. Figure out a way. This is December 18th. Figure out a way to control the dangerous algorithms. Now, I ask you, we have learned the history of social media, the harms done to kids and all people. Couldn't they figure this out before they're announcing deals? It's the same thing with AI. They're throwing it at people, not figuring out the nuts and bolts. Now we've got the TikTok, okay? Here's the part that really irks me.
Yeah, really
There
fucking
will
up a
still
lot of
be
shit,
Chinese
man.
involvement. They will still maintain
So much
ownership
AI
of about
shit out there
a
now.
little over 20%. And why this is important, here's what I don't
A lot of
understand.
fake AI
never will.
videos, man. It's
China
really annoying
itself,
now.
Okay, this is something I do
Really
really
messing
like
up
about China.
the whole thing now.
Children are given 40 minutes a day on TikTok. The material is,
Like
they are
fake
seeing the videos.
accidents.
The discussion is all educational.
AI, a lot of
It's to
fake.
promote their country. It's to promote science and
You know how much
math,
fake accidents I
nature.
saw on
And it shuts down automatically
X
after 40 minutes. That's
and
it, the
YouTube
24-hour
because of
period.
AI. Oh my
But
God.
we in America accept this Chinese company, okay, infiltrating into our children's lives and allowing it. Now, that's the part, Lionel, I do not understand. So now everybody's waiting for this national security threat deal. Okay, President Trump announces it. How do I see it? I see it basically as nothing much has changed with TikTok, that a lot of money will be exchanging hands. And again, what about our kids? So a warning, a warrior's warning, no deal changes anything overnight for child safety online. Families have to assume risk ongoing and act accordingly. So I want to focus on some things about TikTok if you want to talk about it.
Well, another thing too is I want to make sure that people who are the most steadfast of Trump acolytes went berserk with his recent executive orders, which I think we talked about a little bit. But I want to remind people of what that means and how people are furious with him. How did President Trump possibly go along with this by basically removing independent state or he preempted individual state jurisdiction regarding AI, and he made it into one big rubric. So, anyway, we're talking to Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors, lynswarriors.org, on X at Lynn's_Warriors, and on YouTube at Lynn's Warriors. So proceed, young lady, whatever you...
Well, that ain't going to happen.
I made it easy for everybody. I called everything Lynn's Warriors again because I want everybody to wake up and be a warrior and take action.
Ain't gonna happen.
And you know this, right? Like, I believe we live now in a country,
it's not only X and Facebook, it's every social now.
Everybody can and must
even YouTube has a lot of fake AI stuff
now.
Come
together as a community. You don't.
I see it on the shorts.
Do what
a lot of fake
24
AI
hours a day, but you can do something within your own home.
You can tell right away.
To keep all this, out in the
I was
open
watching a few earlier today. It was all
understanding what's going on.
back to back to back. It was all fake.
We live in a digital world. We love the internet. We're not against the internet. But when it comes to children and families, we want more attention and we want more guardrails. More than that, Lionel, we want big tech who rules the roost, who has no regulation. It's the only business. We have tobacco regulation, alcohol regulation. It's the only thing that has no regulation. So then when we push back appropriately, okay, because we've had the internet now since basically 1996. They consider that the birth of the internet, 30 years. And we have seen the harms, and we have the studies, and we have the kids some of them are now adults, and the trauma, and the mental health, and the healthcare system, and all of these creepy things with the kids. So now we have AI. Now here's where there's good news and hope, because we know all this now. So many have stepped up. Parents, organizations, even people in the government, okay? We are demanding that AI be appropriate, be an appropriate tool for our children. We don't want to get rid of it or anything like that. That's ridiculous. We want it to enhance our kids' lives. We don't want it to be, instead of their learning in a school. We want it to be a tutoring, element to help them. The president put out an executive order, okay, that he is going to let big tech do what they want. Once again, it's very disappointing to parents, especially. There is a lot of dissension right now in the conservative Republican Party. And also, I truly believe this issue with family and children, the internet, is probably one of the last truly bipartisan, something we can all get on board with, and we have. All the work we do at the Warriors, we go and work with anybody who is doing good work, a conservative, a Republican, a Democrat, whatever you are. If you are doing good work, we separate it out. We will work with you. And it is hard to have people think like that, right? Everything's been so weaponized in the last few years. But so what the president did, which is so disappointing, and people are whispering about it. They're not really being very vocal. They're afraid to come out and say anything, especially the parent groups, which have been on the rise in the last 2 years, especially with parents whose children have been harmed, whether it's sextortion online, cyberbullying, whether it's these TikTok challenges. We know kids who do subway surfing. We always had that in the city, but not the extent where you had a platform showing you videos of how cool it is to ride on top of trains, and then, you fall off and you get killed, right? They're promoting. So the president, so we know all this. We have all this information, right? And then the president puts out, okay, I'm going to allow big tech. They're going to have their, whatever they want to do with AI.
All right, now she's just yapping now. Listen, TikTok was the first one to do it, that they promote all that stuff, but YouTube is, I'm going to say, YouTube, you can shut me down right now. You're doing the same thing. When I watch the short stuff, it's nonstop. The minute you start watching one particular thing, you get bombarded with that. Okay, on every social. It's not only TikTok. I mean, they want to point the finger at TikTok. Yeah, TikTok was the one that pioneered it, but not every social is copying it. Okay, let's not be naive. Even Instagram with the reels, they copying all that stuff. So now if you go, if you go, yeah, well, it did begin with YouTube. You're right. And TikTok just took it to another level. Now YouTube is like, oh my God, we need to catch up now. And YouTube is doing it now. YouTube didn't have shorts when I started this channel. They started shorts because of TikTok. Let's not fool ourselves. We know that. So they started shorts because of TikTok. And you know what they push a lot now? What I'm doing now. You see the vertical live? This format? I get more people watching in this format than I do the regular format. Because YouTube is pushing out this format more. Even if you make a regular video and you make a short video, YouTube is gonna give you more views on shorts. So they're trying to catch up to TikTok when it comes to that vertical format. Okay. So yeah, YouTube, he said, TikTok, YouTube is just as guilty because they're trying to do the same thing. Because I saw tonight, earlier, I saw a whole bunch of fake AI. One of them was, for example, there was one guy that he was under a ride. He was an old man. He was under a ride. He's doing a selfie under a ride, and the ride hits him in the head. Like a swinging ride. That's fake. You could tell that's fake. Then there was another one that it was like some kind of highway construction in Taiwan. This is YouTube. This is not TikTok. This is YouTube. Highway construction in Taiwan, and the whole highway thing collapsed. Yeah, you could tell that shit is fake as fake as a $3 bill. Believe me, you can see it's like, oh my God. And if you go on Yahoo, it's not even on the news. It's Taiwan highway collapse, construction. That shit is all fake. You could tell. You can see it's fake. And that's what they're pumping out a lot. People pumping that shit out like crazy now. Fake accidents. Oh, hello, James Farley. Happy Christmas Eve. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, so it's every social now that's trying to pump out stuff.
Your children.
So yeah, fake AI videos.
Stories breaking now. Chatbots are machines. They are not real. They are not your friend. I know if you design them, in the 15-year-old in the way of a superhero or a Disney character, or whatever you want, and you control the dialogue, and then that little bot is telling you everything nice about yourself, everything you want to hear, how great you are, how beautiful or handsome you are. But at some point, Lionel, they have learned you. And you have given away your information to this bot, where you live, where you go to school. You're mad at your parents today. You can't stand your sibling. And they turn the information. And then they start suggesting. And this is the problem.
Yeah, I know. I'm guilty of that too. For first time, not first time, but when I use ChatGPT, I put top shortwave channels on YouTube. So you know where I was ranked? I was ranked like number 3. It was official SWL channel, number 1. Then it was Oxford Shortwave, which he is, he's pretty cool. And then it was me. I was number 3. I was number 3 on ChatGPT as a shortwave channel. And then SWL, not official, the guy from South Africa, he was like number 4. And then I forgot who else was it. It was somebody, I think it was somebody else, I forgot who else. And I was like, man, kind of boost your ego a little bit. I was number 3. You know, because I guess ChatGPT, what it does, it aggregates all the search engine stuff, and it ranked me number 3 on shortwave. In terms of YouTube channels. And I was like, man, that's pretty cool. And then you come back a week later, now you're number 5. It's like, get the hell out of here. Fuck you. Yeah. So I was like number 3. And then it gives you a description. It says, yeah, Danny is, practical. He talks about shortwave, but he also shows like experiment with antennas. And, it's like, it aggregates all this info. It's like, I just crack up when I read that shit. I was like, oh my God. Hello, Elmer time. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. Yeah. Happy Christmas Eve. Yeah. So, ChatGPT, I do that. I ChatGPT myself. I put, what are the top shortwave channels on YouTube or stuff like that? Or, top, whatever. Of course, now I took away the name. Now I'm not shortwave no more. Now I'm Danny Radio Tech. But yeah, it's funny though. Sorry, I stepped on the tripod. Hold on.
This change, right? Look, it's here. They're allowed to do all this big tech because there's a lot of money being made, and they're allowed to do it, right? Because there's no regulation. How do we change it? If we can hit them, money-wise, right, in their wallet, as we say, in their purse, but they have so much money to start with. For instance, when our coalition started across the United States, we have warriors are all over different organizations. We come together. We work on these things nonstop behind the scenes. Big Tech spent $200 million to try to stop putting guardrails on Big Tech for kids. We're not trying to limit, we're not trying to invade anybody's privacy. We are simply trying to have some responsibility on these big tech platforms making trillions.
And one more thing.
Comes after trillions off the backs of our children.
And one more thing.
Unacceptable.
If you spend any amount of time listening to Lynn Shaw at lynswarriors.org or any of your colleagues, you will often hear reference to Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996. Let me make sure everybody understands what this means. Because they're talking now about suns. By the way, there's a brand new video on Lynn's Warriors on YouTube where you're talking about sunsetting, and you talk to a number of lawyers who are involved in this at the highest of levels. But in plain terms, Section 230 says that platforms, whether it's TikTok or Facebook or whatever, are not treated as the publisher or the speaker of user-generated content. And what that means is that companies like social media sites or forums, video platforms, generally cannot be sued for what some user...
Hello, Mr. Phillips, 369. Hope you're doing well. Happy Christmas Eve. Hello, RRT08. Happy Christmas Eve, my friend. Hope you and your family are doing well.
At the same time, it allows those platforms to moderate content that they consider to be objectionable without automatically becoming responsible for everything else. So what they're saying is, we are not a publisher. So don't look at me. I don't know what's out there. I have no ability to control this. However, if I do control it, and if I do limit what somebody says, and if I do show some form of limitation of speech, don't think I have waived my Section 230 right. So they have their cake and eat it too. I have no idea of what's going on. However, if you mention ivermectin or President Trump, I can shut you down. But don't think I have any control of what I just exhibited as having control of, if that makes any sense.
It makes complete sense, and that's been my argument. I've been in, I can't tell you how many offices, marching the halls of Congress. They have the ability to censor, right? As you pointed out, ivermectin or President Trump, whatever. They have that ability, but they can't do this with CSAM, child sexual abuse material. They cannot do it. There is a lawsuit that will be tried, right? It is in that interview with Attorney Danny Pinter on my YouTube channel. Because she's in charge of this lawsuit, where the boy was clearly a minor, okay, at the time, and exchanged a nude image. And clearly he and the mother contacted, X is the platform for this, Twitter at the time, and getting no answers. You know, it's very murky, like where you go to report things, and they don't get back to you, and who's actually working on this. That's another thing, we have no transparency. Who are these safety councils with these platforms? Is it 2 people working there? Is it 50 people? There's no transparency. But what happened is Twitter said eventually he proved he was a minor, okay, and they told his mother and him, this doesn't violate community standards, these nude images. Now, what happened, the nude images of him eventually were uploaded and seen over 165,000 times. And, you know, remember, everybody, once you put something online, even if you delete it, I have to tell kids this all day long, it's there forever. It has been captured in the cloud. It's there. So think twice before you put anything, and pictures as well. I know it's the holidays. We love our families. We want to put our kids.
Yeah, but that happened with this been going on before AI. See, they're trying to blame AI for this. This been going on before that. I remember back in the 90s. And I'm gonna tell you, I remember back in the 90s. Okay, we're talking about 1995. I used to host websites, right? I used to host I'm gonna say, naughty sites, banner ads. And some of my sponsors back then, they were posting fake celebrity stuff. You know what I'm talking about. Like, let's not beat around the bush. I'm talking about, I'm talking about over 18 people here now. I'm not talking about, please, anybody else under 18, don't comment on this right now. Please don't. There was a lot of celebrity fakes. Photoshop stuff. Okay. I mean, the AI now is video and everything. Now it's next level shit. But back then, it was Photoshop stuff. It was like, they cropped the head out of this celebrity and they put it in this body. And so is that. So this has been going on forever. Forever. So I don't know why these people saying like it's actually new stuff. All this has been going on. Same thing with online stuff, harassment. It's been going on forever. I dealt with that stuff way back in 1995. All right. I was hosting websites back in 1994, 1995, all the way into the 2000s. So it's been going on for a long time. AI just made it more real. That's all it is. For me,
The podcast. Victoria.
So, and by the way, that whole search thing, there was a case about that I guess some kid went on ChatGPT and asked questions about how to off himself or unalive himself. I can't say the other words because I don't want to get my chat shut down. But you know what I mean. I can't even say the S word, the S side word. So apparently some kid asked ChatGPT what's the best way to off myself or unalive myself. I know I'm using these words, it's kind of stupid, but I have to do it because YouTube really frowns upon that stuff. But this has been going on since day one. People go on Google. You know how many cases on the crime network? People go on Google and they ask Google how to get rid of a body, how to dispose of this, how to whatever, poison somebody without tracing, all that stuff. You know what I'm talking about. It's been going on before AI. So in other words, I use AI. I use it for what it is. My son uses AI for what it is. And I explain to him all the time. I try to say, AI, if you fact check all that stuff, half of that stuff is not right. And he goes, I know that. And he said, okay. And he's 11 years old. So the people that do that and they actually believe AI word by word, I'm sorry, they're just fucking stupid. Either they're stupid or they're just fucking naive. I'm sorry. You gotta take it with a grain of salt, AI. Anybody, you can test it. I tested AI for years, 3 or 4 years ago when it first, came out. And I tested that shit, and you could tell right away, yeah, this is a long way from being accurate. Are they catching up? Yeah, it's catching up. But you can take it with a grain of salt. All it does is aggregate all the data out there and puts it in paragraphs for you, or in images or whatever. That's all it does. It's an aggregator. That's it. There's nothing really smart about it. It's an aggregator. It's like a search engine on overdrive. That's all it is. It's a search engine with 1 million parameters. That's all it is. That's how you got to think about AI. Because I'm a computer guy. I'm a computer programmer, a science major, and all that. That's what I see about AI. It's just a search engine on steroids with 1 billion parameters. That's all it is, or 1 billion conditions, and that's it. And that's how I see AI. But most people are not gonna see it like that. Yeah, RT08, just another data gathering tool. Even if the data's wrong, it's gathering. Exactly. It's just and by the way, it's a faster way. That's what AI did. It just supercharge your data gathering. That's all it is.
Don't really say that. They'll play up the propaganda.
When I first got on the internet back in 92, 93, when we had to look for information back then, you had to go to a website called Gopher. It was a Gopher, or before search engines were even around. Gopher. If you want information, Gopher. And you would type simple stuff, and it would be like not even close to it. That's what we evolved from. Gopher. Then the first major search engine back in the 90s was Alta Vista. Then Yahoo. Remember the early version of Yahoo? First it was Alta Vista. Remember Alta Vista? Alta Vista. Yahoo. Then Google. And now we have this. That's all it is. It's just evolution of searching data and aggregating it. Now, what AI does, it puts it in a report format. That's what AI does. It puts it in a paragraph for you. It tries to, grammar check it and everything. That's all it is.
Advertising. So algorithms, delay is the way. And if kids are on TikTok, lock it down. Be aggressive about it. These are our precious kids. Allow access,
All this panic shit is bullshit.
A limit. Be like China. It's 40 minutes a day. We have kids spending up to 9 hours a day online. Unbelievable. So lock it down. Be in charge of it. And number 3, I want everybody to talk to their kids. I say it all the time, open and honestly about what an algorithm is, dangerous content. Tell the kids they're making money off of you. They're manipulating your mind. Kids will say, really? I don't want that. I'm going to put it down. They have to understand the kids. They're not just watching videos, right, and cute dances and music. They are being trained, nudged, and shaped by an algorithm responding to their emotions. When they understand this, they're going to want to put the devices down. We even have some studies now.
They are the product. The children are the product, not the toy.
But when we tell the kids and help them understand this, they're like, really? And they put it down. Watch for warning signs always in your kids. You should take things seriously. Kids not.
All right, there you go. I'm gonna give you a good analogy right now about that. When it's hit the kids. And I'm going to give you a good analogy. When I was 10, no, not 10, actually a little later. I'll take it back. I was 13. I was 13. I went to the library. And I saw a book about, this book covered everything, okay? This book covered puberty, sex. This book covered everything. This book was the blueprint for understanding myself, okay? I was 13, 14. I was already kind of like, okay, you could tell I was already like, woo! My voice was already going, woo! And I went to the library. I said, I'm going to look up a book about all this stuff. And of course, I had a librarian. She was very, well, when I say she, it was really a he, or he, she-male, or whatever, or tranny, whatever the hell. Sorry, these phrases. Sorry, people. If it offends you, you can tune another channel. But she was very helpful. I'm going to call her she. She was very helpful. I got the book just for you. And it was a thick paperback kind of book. It was a big book. It looked like a workbook, but it was thick. And that book, I read that book cover to cover many times over. That book teaches you everything. It starts from, it teaches you all about drugs, narcotics, side effects and all that stuff. This book, I wish I could remember the name of the book right now, because I would recommend this book for any adolescent or any kid, any kid that's going into puberty. This book helped me a lot. Okay, this book. So when people say, "Oh, they're going to restrict you from doing that," no. I went to the library, New York City Public Library. I got that book. My mother didn't know about that book. It taught about I'm gonna say masturbation, conception, all that stuff, intercourse, everything. That book covered everything. And I was able to pick it up when I was 13 years old. Okay? But you know what? That book actually probably saved my life too, because that book covered AIDS, HIV. It also covered, sexually transmitted diseases and all that. So even at 13, I was already aware, okay, if I engage in this, I gotta be careful, because you can get this and you can get that. My mom didn't know English. My mom had no, she couldn't sit down and, she was old school. She wasn't gonna sit down and talk to me about that. I got everything from that book. And by the way, around that age, my brothers already had all these magazines around, like Playboy and Penthouse, and you know what I'm talking about. Let's not be naive here. So I saw it. I said, "Oh my God, that's what that looks like." So, bro, there was no internet back then. I still got access to it. You see what I'm saying? We all did. Either, whatever uncle or big brother had all those magazines, or, the stash. We're going to call it the porn stash. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I went through that too. Okay? I went through that. 13, 14, I went through that. I said, hey, yo. Or my neighbor has some stuff, and I would be like, oh, shit. He would be like, yo. He would show me stuff. Oh, he had it on the wall. In his room, he had it on the wall. So, let's not bullshit kid ourselves. Okay? The internet just made it really easy. That's all. That's all it does. It made it really easy. For me, in the 70s, it was just on paper. That was it. Okay? It was on paper. Big brother over here had these magazines, or he had the calendar in the bathroom in the basement, and I walk in there and I see the calendar. I'm like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? That was my internet. Okay, so now, they bring it, it's the same fucking argument about it, Oh, it's easy. Yeah, it is easy accessible because now you can have it on your phone, and I'm like, oh my God, I could look up whatever I want. That's the only difference. Instead of me going to the library and look up all this information, or my brother has a stash over here, and I can see it. I can see the roast beef. You know what I'm saying? It's the same today. It's just easier with technology. That's it. That's it. Right? That's it. It's just for us, it was more, the guy over here, or even in the 80s. Remember in the 80s? When you go to a video store and there was a regular video section, and then there was an area where they had the curtain, and that was the other section, the other section, the adult section. And sometimes the owner didn't care. We do him. And the owner would be like, we would go in there and look at it. We just look at the cover. He didn't let us take the tape out, and rent it because he could have rented to us. But when you looked at the cover, you can see it. Okay. So it's the same thing. It's just now you have it at the fingertips. That's it. High speed at your fingertips. That's the only difference. Okay? So, when these people start protect this, come on. It's been going on since the beginning of time. Okay? I went through that. We all went through that. I don't know about you guys, but I went through that. Okay? 13, 14 years old. My brother had his stash over here. Neighbor over here had, his stuff on the wall, whatever stash. And I go to the library, I get a book on all the stuff. Public library book. And by the way, I never returned that book. Forget about late fees. I never returned that book. That book was mine for 3 or 4 years, and then I don't know what happened to that book. I think I just threw it out or something. I don't know what happened to that book. I think it fell apart or some shit. I don't know I don't remember what happened to that book. But it was one of those books that, hey, I took it out, and when I took out the book, to borrow the book, I never returned it. Because I read that book cover to cover over and over. And it was a good thing I did take that book out, because that book really, I learned a lot. And and by the way, this is around the time that they were introducing sex ed in some schools. And, some schools were like, we don't, like my junior high school. The junior high school that I went to, they had that. And, you had to take the form to your mom, and she had to sign it. So, of course, my mom signed it. And it was it was boring, whatever. But what I read in that book was a lot more interesting to me than what I learned in that classroom. Okay? So there you go. So all this stuff, all this panicking stuff now, it comes down to two things. One, you got to be a responsible parent. You have to educate your kid. You have to tell your kid that this stuff is out there, and you got to take it with a grain of salt, and that type of thing. And if you really want to talk about something, you have to earn their trust and say, you know what, we can talk about it, and that's it. And I didn't have that, by the way. I didn't have a dad. And my mom was very stubborn. Stubborn and very, no, I couldn't do. So in my case, I had to learn on my own. I didn't have a choice. So I thank God that book was available. I wish I could remember the name of that book and the title and all that. I don't remember, but that book really, prepared me for adolescence and all that. That book. Okay? So there you go. True story.
Suck up messages, don't find it interesting. In any event. So it's called Marty Supreme. And he plays I like what they say, a cameo. Well, first of all, he did much better than this Kevin O'Leary or Kevin Leary, whoever this guy was. Just didn't have it. Did not have it. I gotta tell you something. acting is something that, you may not be able to know how to do it, but that doesn't mean that you can't critique it. I may not know anything about general surgery, but if you lop off the wrong arm, I can say, hey, you made a mistake. Why? Well, that's not the arm. What do you know? Are you a doctor? No, I'm not a doctor, but I know left from right. And what he did was he did this one scene, which is most difficult, is listening. When somebody's talking to you, and you got a camera on you, and you're trying to listen as though you've never heard this before. Eyes, motions, gesticulation, all of this really add up, and it was excellent. The last time we had, Governor Hochul was there, Bruce Blakeman, who was vying for her seat. Everybody's there. And he gets along with everybody. Or they get along with him. Or maybe people see it as advantageous to be his friend. However you look at it, it goes to show you that politics does not have to be absolutely this silliness where you hate people and I don't understand it. Same thing goes for, I'm going to be very careful, the same thing goes for, dare I say, quasi-professional relationships and wrestling. By the way, we can clear those lines, gentlemen. We can clear those lines if we want, just whatever it's worth. Mr. Atwood, could we clear those lines? Thank you so much. In wrestling, there's something called a shoot. And a shoot is when you really, really, really want to, you're mad, you're angry. It's not kayfabe, it's legit. I mean, it's very, very, it's real. A work is something that's pretend and that sort of thing. And a shoot is a very, very scary thing because you're breaking your role as a choreographed participant in this particular arena. And sometimes you'll hear it with people at radio and, oh, dare I say, ex-friends and colleagues acting like children regarding. Anyway, well, we can see right through it. It's fun to watch for a while. But most of the time, people really should just get along with each other. Very, 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 very simple. So anyway, it was wonderful to be in a movie theater. It's wonderful to hear, by the way, to see a screen. And to see a screen and to be in these nice chairs that recline backwards. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful event. And it was just fun to actually be out and about with other people. Now, of course, when you meet people like that, who are there, they have not they, but some people don't have any conception of the fact that, you're going to be going on the air at 1 a.m. till 5, but they don't want to hear the reality of this. So you just figure a way to get around.
Let me put a BBC World Service. See, I hate this tuning on this radio. It's crappy. It's the worst tuning for this radio. It's very wide.
Get that missing part of the puzzle put in place early next year.
Senator David Shoebridge there speaking to me from Sydney.
A text from St. John's, the Chadian capital, N'Djamena. Says that all in Australia that bars people from protesting after a terrorist attack on emotion.
Wow. See how much I just tapped it? You see how wide the tuning is? Wow.
But, I say the deathbed one, even when there's 3% function, or they've had organ transplants, or they have what...
Wow. It's really sucky right now.
Venezuela's president and accused him of heading a drug cartel.
The U.S. continues to target.
See that? I just touch it, look.
Transporting drugs to America. Washington also continues a blockade of Venezuelan oil shipments. Well, Caracas denies links to drugs. Is seeking to overthrow Maduro, says it concedes Venezuela's huge oil reserves. Well, a little over 10 kilometers from Venezuela, are the islands of Trinidad and Tobago, where the Prime Minister has clearly allied her country to the U.S. action against Venezuela. I've been speaking to Orrin Gordon, who is a columnist for the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian.
The Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, which is the island state that's closest to Venezuela, she has thrown in her lot with the Trump administration from the time that she was elected in April in a very muscular sort of way. When the first of the boat strikes occurred on September the 2nd. Her reaction was kill them all violently. And she's doubled down and tripled down and quadrupled down on her support for American military muscularity in the Caribbean region. The people who support the Prime Minister, Kamala Persad-Bissessar, have mostly rallied around her. And it is my view as somebody who writes a column for a living that the media is rather soft on Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar in not pinning her down on specifics. For example, it was discovered that the United States soldiers on Tobago, the smaller of the sister Trinidad and Tobago, had set up a radar installation. First of all, she said that the soldiers were there to do road works, road repairs, and when it
you can hear how lefty BBC World Service is, right? You can hear it. Like, she's the leader of Trinidad and Tobago. That's her opinion. She supports what's going on with the blowing up those drug boats. But of course, they want to paint her as the villain. You know, this is why the media overall sucks. Because they're very biased against anything Trump does. They're very biased against that. Even though he's blowing up drug boats and God knows how much fentanyl is not getting into this country now. But the media wants to portray anybody that supports him as, you know, bad character or whatever, including the leader of Trinidad and Tobago.
As a staging post for possible military action against Venezuela, but we cannot get the Prime Minister to level with us on that score. And it's a very, very important matter.
You said before that Trinidad and Tobago is close to Venezuela. I mean, look at the map, they're almost joining. Is there a fear in Trinidad and Tobago about if there is a conflict about the impact it's going to have?
Yes, there is, because if, and that's been the noise coming out of Venezuela as well.
That's why when I listen to this stuff, I take it with a grain of salt.
As is quite clearly the case.
I listen to it just to listen to it.
For possible U.S. military action.
But why buy into all this stuff? No, because they're biased.
A retaliatory target. And that is the fear in the country, and that's been the noise coming out of Caracas. It's the rhetorical traffic between the two countries has increased in volume and intensity in the past few weeks and months, and it's taken on a rather nasty edge. There are more than 8 million Venezuelans who fled the harsh economic conditions in their country, and more than 100,000, that's as much as we know, and more than 100,000 have made their way to Trinidad and Tobago. Parts of the two countries are visible from each other. That's how close to each other there are. And large parts of Trinidad and Tobago are unpoliced. So it's very easy for a group of Venezuelans to get in a boat and cross the small body of water between the two masses of land that it, as it were, melt into Trinidad and Tobago society.
That was Trinidad and Tobago Guardian columnist Oren Gordon with his take on the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago, the US and Venezuela.
You're listening to Newsday from the BBC with me, Anne Solly and Rob Young. A recap of some of the headlines this hour after sweeping new gun control laws were passed by the Australian state of New South Wales.
That's why he sued the hell out of them. That's why Trump sued the BBC right now, because there's a fake butchery audio clip, January 6th stuff. That's what happened. These people, they all, you know, they just fucking hate him. That's it. I'm not gonna say no other way. That's it. You know, straight up. That's it. You know, that's why when I listen to this stuff, I take it with a grain of salt. You know, that's not, you know, a person with no intelligence, they believe this shit like gospel. Me, I take this shit with a grain of salt. I know it's bullshit. You can hear it every fucking time I listen to this. It's all left. It's all fucking, you know, whatever. They fucking nitpick every little fucking thing about this guy. Straight up.
Football news: Manchester City are in advanced talks to sign
forward
Antoine Semenyo. The Ghanaian has an 88 million.
And the thing is that they criticize another country like ours. Meanwhile, in their own country, you know, I'm sorry, England, you're not England no more. From what I see, London now, it's all Muslim, it's all Hindu. It's all whatever, third world shit. It's not fucking England no more. It's not England. That's it. But, you know, yet these fucking people got their head up their ass and buried in the fucking sand. They don't want to admit it, you know? They fucking open up the immigration to the point where now they basically, every major city or every other major city in England is run by an immigrant. You know, a Muslim or a Hindu is running major cities in England. You know, it's invaded. Facts.
More of that. Let's cross.
Like what happened in New York City now. We have a fucking Jew hater right now. He's going to get sworn in a few days. Mandami. Certified fucking Jew hater. There you go.
So just tell us what this case is all about.
You'll remember a few months ago, Donald Trump came in with a $100,000 fee for these H-1B visas. Now, they're generally used to hire foreign workers with training in specialty fields. Technology companies over in the US really rely on them to bring talent in, especially high-value talent. And the program actually offers around 65,000 visas annually, so you can imagine a lot of people are affected. Well, now, a federal judge has rejected a challenge by the largest U.S. business lobby group, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, saying that this fee...
Yeah, so, you know, December 31st, we're going to see the ball drop, right? In Times Square. We're going to see the ball drop, right? We're going to see the ball drop. 2026. Woo! And you know what's going to happen the following week? In Times Square? There's going to be a call to prayer or some shit. That's what they're going to do. You're going to see everybody in Times Square 5 times a day. They're going to fucking put a mosque in Times Square. That's what's going to happen soon. Okay? You think I'm joking about it? Watch. It already happened in London. They got speakers and they're playing that shit all over fucking London. All right? So don't be surprised in Times Square, you're going to hear that shit. Okay? I'm going to tell you like it is here. You're going to hear that shit all over Times Square one day. Okay? I'm not fucking around here. I'm telling you like it is. Thank God I don't live in New York City no more because I'll fucking drive me crazy with that shit. They got speakers all over the place. When you go to Times Square, there's going to be a point when they're going to say, and people are going to get on their fucking, you know, they're going to go down on the floor and they're going to fucking pray in the middle of Times Square. That's going to happen. It's already happening in London. So, you know what? You people need to wake the fuck up and stop this bullshit.
Annalena von Hodenberg of
Wake the fuck up.
One of those who won't be able to get a visa a little later in the program.
A few years from now, you're going to quote me and say, wow, that Danny guy was right.
The city of Bethlehem has been publicly celebrating Christmas.
Well, they just elected this guy, and that's what's going to happen.
A Christmas tree has been lit in Manger Square near the Church of the Nativity.
Believe me, it's going to happen.
His economy has suffered badly over the past 2 years during the war in Gaza. There's high unemployment, tourism is down, and tens of thousands of Palestinian laborers have been blocked from entering Israel and its settlements for work. Well, I've been discussing all of this with Maha Kanawati, the mayor of Bethlehem, the biblical birthplace of Jesus.
Actually, after 2 years of
You see them washing their feet,
the city is alive now.
washing their feet on the curb, on Times Square.
The people and the
Might have a little sink there they can wash
are
their
really
feet.
happy walking the streets of Bethlehem. And we see lots of tourists and pilgrims
Oh my God,
also
bro.
walking the city of Bethlehem.
So tourists have returned, have they? In what kind of numbers? Similar to the numbers you saw before the war in Gaza, or not?
No, not that much, but
Yo, is it happening?
if we're talking about the occupancy rate at the hotels in Bethlehem, they jumped from 0 to 65, 70%. And I think this is a great
That's the last time you're going to see the ball drop.
But we still need some time before
Next
we
time
get
it's going to
back
be
to the same
something
level
else.
of tourism before the war.
And tell me what the tourists are doing when they're there.
They're basically, walking the streets of Bethlehem. They're visiting the church.
Y'all think the big black lady in Times Square is a fucking eyesore? Yo, because I seen that shit up close. That's a fucking eyesore. Big black lady with the attitude. Fucking statue in Times Square. Oh boy, wait till they fucking build a fucking prayer shit right there. They're gonna have speakers all over the place. Yo, shit is real, bro. It's gonna happen now. It's gonna happen because you fucking people voted for this fucking guy. It's gonna fucking happen now.
The new year. So this is amazing for the people of Bethlehem. We brought hope to the people of Bethlehem, to our people. And I think from here, we send
I still got
all
Christmas
kinds of
over
messages
here,
to
bro.
the world that we are people that love life and love peace. And we really need to achieve that peace, definitely through justice.
You say there is hope and people's spirits are much lifted compared to the previous couple of years, but there are still restrictions on workers entering Israel. The economy is still in a tough place.
What about London? What about Paris?
What are you doing? What needs to be done to try to improve people's day-to-day life?
Paris, that's another city is all
demolished. The wall
fucked up because of this
separates
shit.
Bethlehem from Bethlehem and Bethlehem from Jerusalem for the first time in history. The barriers, the gates.
Yeah, right, Paris. Didn't they cancel New Year's Eve celebration because of what? Threats? Come on, man. Fucking religion of peace. Give me a fucking break, man. Fuck out of here.
Oh, definitely. Without hope, we cannot continue. And the people of Palestine are so resilient that they, even though, despite of all of the hardships that we're facing, we're still, standing in our country. And I think this by itself is a miracle. If you compare numbers in the past and if you compare numbers of people in Palestine, I give you an example. The Christians in Palestine, Christian Palestinians are 165,000. And there are 4 million Christian Palestinians in diaspora. But here in Bethlehem, we are steadfast. We are trying to strengthen the resilience of the locals in creating more jobs, creating, attracting more tourists and pilgrims so they can prosper. In Bethlehem, 80 to 90% depending on tourism. We have 78 hotels, we have restaurants, shops, workshops, all. What's in Bethlehem goes around tourism, and it is very important that people keep coming in order to support the people of Bethlehem.
Maha Kanawati there, the mayor of Bethlehem in the occupied West Bank, and I'm just watching a live video feed of Manger Square with the very large Christmas tree there with a star at the top, decorated with red and gold baubles. You can hear the sound of some tourists milling around there. If you want to see some video of the tree all lit up, head to the BBC website at bbc.com. With Newsday on the BBC World Service.
All right, there you go. Just like Beirut was a paradise once, and then it became a shithole. Gaza is now a fucking rubble. You know why? Because the religion of peace fucks everything up. Don't you know that, bro? Don't you people know that shit? The religion of peace, everything they touch, they fuck it up. They fuck it up. So all you fucking women out there and gay people that say, oh, I'm for Palestine. Oh, my God, I'm for Palestine. They're going to fucking throw stones at you in their country. Fucking idiots. Fucking stupid. You're like this fucking guy. Yeah, I'm glad I don't live in New York City because fucking guy is a socialist and a fucking Jew hater.
Having no relative share those memories with those memories can become
Free fucking buzz shit. That shit ain't gonna happen. Fucking people voted for this guy because they're stupid. They just fucking dumb.
And what does she look? Name somebody. If you had to describe.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna say we have the most stupidest people in this country. Like 50% of this country is just fucking dumb.
Elizabeth Taylor, aren't you?
There we go.
Oh my God! Like really fucking stupid people.
Yeah, but everyone's dead.
Well, I know that. You keep saying that. You're focusing on that. I understand that. Where was Eleanor born?
And I'm not even talking about the ghetto people.
North New Jersey.
North. I like that. Now, be specific. Just
ghetto,
North New Jersey.
Ghetto,
They don't have towns then. It's called the North. And what about your father?
He was born in Pennsylvania.
And were they close? Were they?
Ghetto it up.
Oh yeah.
And who predeceased whom? By the way, 30 past the hour. Who predeceased
My father died
whom?
first, and then my mother.
The fatigue is real, bro.
And how did she handle your father's death?
The fatigue
Pretty
is
well,
real.
but we had each other.
Did she mourn like right?
I'm an only child. So
Right. She didn't. Right. Exactly. What's the best memory you have of her? The best memory.
There's so many. Wow.
Just give me one. Just something. Just whatever comes to mind. Just give me one event. Boom. What comes to mind?
I can't.
Just one thing. One event. A birthday. Just not the most important. An event. Something.
The last thing. The last New Year's Eve that she was alive, I threw a big party because I'd never spent New Year's Eve with her, and she thanked me. Thank you so much.
Isn't that great?
Because, yeah.
Now listen. That's what I want you to do. You see what I just did? I want you to think about her. Think about her as being alive. Think about her about where she was born, how she lived, what she looked like, what songs she liked, what food. She is alive. She is in another state. For example, she might be in Pennsylvania. She might. Many people live away from their parents, and they don't even see their parents, but they don't think of their parents as dead. Your mother is with you. She is in your heart every single day. And she would want you, she would say, Rick, for the love of God, please, you're killing yourself. I understand it. I'm honored that you feel this bad, but move on. Keep me in your heart, but move on and live. Don't make me feel bad. That's what she would want you to say. And Rick, we love you.
I'm going to take that to heart.
Rick, we love you. We want you to have a great and happy, I keep saying New Year's Eve. Damn it. Christmas Eve. One of those things, which I find so interesting. We had, I think about, to me, my father and my mother is so interesting. I think to myself, my fantasy would be to meet them at my age. Not that differential, but to meet them where we're the same age. Like, what is your father and mother like if they were a peer? What would that seem like? That would be it. It was so funny, like last night that we're at the movie theater, and I thought to myself, one day, I used to love to embarrass her. But she loved it. She had a great sense of humor. I think I told you the story. And we went to some movie, I don't know. And I was very, very loud. I said, excuse me, yes. Because you know how sometimes you have to talk loudly because there's this there's the person behind the ticket. I said, yes. Do you have a senior citizens discount? And this is before they really had them. She said, well, yes, we do. And my mother, who loved a bargain, said, ooh. I said, do you have a really old discount? I mean, decrepit. Now and these people behind us. I'm not cracking a smile. And my mother saying, stop it. That I can hear her say it, stop it. But laughing simultaneously. You don't have that yet. Let me ask you one more question. You obviously are giving her a discount because she's old and doesn't have much longer. Of course, I'm laughing. I said, she's also a bit daft. It was a fertilizer accident, and she won't really enjoy the movie. In fact, she won't even understand it. Can you knock another 10% off? Now, people are getting the joke behind us. And I remember one time, like, I would grab her, hold her, like she was about to fall down. She was not a slight woman by any stretch of the imagination. But I would, like, walk in holding her like she was going to fall. And I say, here we go, step. And she were laughing, just stop doing that. I said, it's okay, back up, here she comes, everybody back away, step. And there was no step there. That's what I did. That's
Kind of
what
be careful
I
with
did.
this.
And
With
when
this,
I think about her and I laugh, I'm thinking to myself,
selfie stick.
That was fun.
Let me-
Most parents would say, why are you doing
How you
this?
tilt this shit
She
forward?
loved it. Last one too.
Okay, here we
When you
go.
were a kid, did your parents ever make you like go in to pay bills? I was like, would you just mail the damn thing? We got to pay the water bill. Well, send it in.
Guilty.
No, we're going to go to this place.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that.
This
My
is
mother
the
did
water
that.
bill company. How much is the stamp? Anyway, so when I would come out, she'd be driving around, and I weathered the line. I would come out and yell, Mama! Mama! I'd yell and bang on doors. I mean, it was a blast. And I could see her through the glass saying to herself, even if I heard, I hate you. Stop doing this. And also, once you get into it, you can't immediately stop. Cured from this malady, you got to keep going. Mama! Ma! And you'd be surprised. I'm sorry. There's a special place in hell for me. I get it. And so forth. But he was known career. He retired. Don't like
I've got 5 years of coast-to-coast programs to play.
Happened in North Carolina. 7-16, Ohio over UNLV.
Call me. We could have
Good morning, Mary DX. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Happy Merry Christmas Eve. Season greetings, my friend. I hope you are doing very well. Good to see you.
North Bay's #1 for new music.
Mackenzie Porter featuring Owen Riegler. Coming home to you.
There you go. There you go. Country 600 out of North Bay, Ontario. CKAT or CCAT.
There's a mass in the kidney that's not even cancer, yet those people get their kidney.
Yeah, CHLO out of Brampton, Ontario. Right now it's fading away, but comes and goes. Other than that, it would be Radio Enciclopedia out of Cuba. But right now it's Brampton, Ontario. KXCL out of Waterloo, Iowa.
With about 4 minutes left in the half. They've got a 4th and 2 midfield. They've been moving the ball all game. 4th and 2 midfield. Up 17-7. About 4 minutes left in the half. Come on, Brett Fenovich, you have to go for it there. You've got a good quarterback. You've got to leave the offense on the field. And he got attacked with a sudden chance of cowardice.
WWKB out of Buffalo, New York.
For them on the Oklahoma sideline there. He sent out the punter. And Alabama gets the ball, runs up scoring, and then but they went on a run and wound up winning 34-27. When you've got a team, if Oklahoma would have converted there and got another touchdown before the half and won it 24-7, they would have won the game. They could have put their foot on their throat. They could have closed them. You don't send the kicker out on a slow completion midfield when you're up 17-7. They get the step of the game. When you've been moving the ball and you have a chance to win, you've got to play to win. That's Venables. And what might be the worst playoff game I've ever seen? Miami beat Texas A&M 7-3. That Miami defense is really good. Ryan Cristobal is another coach I don't like. He was the coach for my Oregon Ducks going up to Miami. Mario Cristobal is the worst timeout clock manager in all of college football. And he's taken over the defense is good and it's carried the pitch. New Year's Eve, we got Miami's 9.5-point dog against Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Then New Year's Day, my Oregon Ducks -1.5 against Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl in Miami. Alabama against Indiana for 7-6. And Alabama and Ole Miss.
So one thing I noticed with the FMDX web server and the TEF 6686 radio and the MFJ 1886 on medium wave, I do notice that there is some noise. And I know people told me that in the past, they make comments about it, that is the screen. You know, the big screen on the radio, on the TF 6686. I never noticed it when I had it outside, when I done meeting with the XE on it. But definitely indoors, there is the noise floor goes up quite a bit. So I think in the future, for the FMDX web server project, I think I'm going to switch over to the AirSpy SDR eventually. If I want people to meet with DX on the FMDX web server, because the TF 6686 radio as a meeting with DXer on the FMDX web server, it's just noisy. It's noisy. I mean, you know, you could tune in right now. I have it hooked up to the MFJ 1886 loop, but I noticed there is a high level of noise, and it's not only because of the Christmas holiday. I tried it. I tested it out in the summertime too, and I got the same issue. It is very noisy, especially on the lower part of the medium wave band and the upper part of the medium wave. The middle part is okay. But yeah, I think somebody posted that a long time ago, and I kind of blew him off on the comment. But in my case, I can see it now because it's already been out for a few weeks with the MFJ 1886 loop. So definitely, I can say, and that's why, by the way, on the FMDX web server, they do have a headless. They do have a headless server. I mean, headless radio. That means the radio without the big LCD screen, because that's the highest source of noise is the screen. Same thing with the SI 4732, the little pocket, the little tiny radio. The noise is produced by the screen. If you didn't have that screen, the noise would be a lot lower. I'm talking about the TF6686 radio, what they call the headless version. Some people use that as I don't want to buy one because it's kind of expensive. But I'm thinking about switching over to the SDR. The S-Spy SDR, and use that and see if that'll, because that's a pretty good radio. The S-Spy. Because you do have several options. On the FMDX web server, you can install not only the TF6686 chip radio or chipset radio, you can also install an RTL SDR. You can install the Sony XDR radios, but that one, you need a mod for that, and it's not worth it, to be honest. Because you're not going to get HD radio anyway. And S-Spy, the S-Spy SDR, which I do have. So I'm really thinking about switching over to the S-Spy for my FMDX web server. Because I'm interested to see how well will I perform with that software, especially on medium wave. That's why, because I really want to, emphasize on medium wave and short wave. You can go in there too. Because the plugin that I have set up right now, it's for all the bands. But I'm noticing that medium wave is very noisy. It's really noisy. Even on a good night, it's still noisy on a bunch of frequencies. And it shouldn't be that way. It was never that way before when I had like the RSPDX or the S-Spy SDR. I never had that issue. That much noise. Only once in a while. But now it's like, wow. It's like, so I think it's the radio. I think the CT686 radio is a good radio if you can put it out there where there's not much noise. But in here in the house, on medium wave, it can be noisy. It can be noisy. And that's why I'm rethinking about maybe get that. Until maybe I can afford the headless SDR. I mean, the headless TF6686. Because they do have a headless. They have two of them. They have the headless light, which is only one antenna input. And then they have the regular headless. I think it's called just the headless, whatever. And that one has two antenna inputs. But I'm thinking at that point, you know what? There's so many FMDX web servers out there that don't use the TF6686 radio. I'm thinking about just using the S-Spy and see how that works. And there you go. Blazer Bobcat, watching and listening from Albany, Georgia. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And same to you, my friend. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you and your family. And many blessings to you, my friend. God bless you.
Mariota's multiple ailments keep him sidelined. Cliff Kingsbury's offense could very well have to run through Jeff Driscoll only 3 days after his return.
Yeah, luckily with him having been here last year, it's a little bit of a saving grace for us. He has a good knowledge of our base stuff and how to operate it, and so really just giving him, hey, here are the concepts I'm thinking. It's you need to play, and you show me the ones you're really comfortable with, and we'll take out the ones you're not. And so it's been a lot easier that way than having somebody who's foreign to the system.
In a sign of a losing football team, Washington's only Pro Bowl representative is Tress Way, the third selection of his career. Rob Whitworth, WTOP Sports.
All right, thanks, Rob. As always, 2:57. We update traffic and weather a minute away.
This is WTOP, Washington's news, traffic, and weather station. WTOP FM Washington, WWWT-FM Manassas, WTLP FM Braddock Heights Frederick.
What does life after service look like? Kicking back, taking it easy. We believe it looks a little different. It looks like leading for all veterans, helping shape policies to make certain they get the benefits they've earned, and ensuring every veteran's voice is heard. It looks like advancing to meet today's veterans where they are, lifting them up and strengthening the bond that unites them. It looks like serving when disaster strikes, boots on the ground, helping our communities recover and rebuild. It's our capital to our hometown. We don't just show up when it's easy. We show up when it matters. Because the veterans' mission never truly ends, and neither does ours. The DFW.
Project done now with Stellar with no payments until 2027. Take advantage of this limited time financing to protect your home as snow and ice set in. Our team delivers industry-leading craftsmanship backed by a top-tier warranty and hundreds of 5-star reviews. Secure your savings before costly emergency repairs are needed during the winter months. When quality counts, call 888-7663 Stellar Roofing. Proud partner of the Buffalo Bills.
Tis the season. When you're in the mood for holiday music, listen live with the iHeartRadio app and on your radio to Sunny 102.3, Canandaigua's Christmas station. First, fast, accurate. Rochester's news, weather, and traffic station.
Explosion in southeastern Pennsylvania. I'm Ted Lindner, Fox News. Emergency crews responding Tuesday after an explosion at a nursing home facility.
There you go, Wham, 1180.
It was a gas leak that led to that.
WWVA out of Wheeling, West Virginia.
We know that at this time there are at least 2 fatalities. We know that there are some number of individuals still missing. Part of the building collapsed from the blast. This woman saw it all and described the chaos.
The dining hall, the admissions part to the hospital is going, all the windows are blown out. I'm just praying for everybody at the nursing home.
Meantime, a Delaware state trooper was shot and killed while on duty Tuesday. Fox's Kevin Uretsky with those details. The incident took place at the DMV office near Wilmington. Delaware State Police spokesman Corporal Rashawn Rich explains what happened.
The suspect approached the trooper who was working an overtime assignment, sitting at the reception desk, and shot him.
Corporal Rich says the trooper then saved someone else's life.
After being shot, the trooper pushed a DMV employee out of harm's way, and the suspect shot the trooper again.
Delaware State Police Superintendent William Crowley told the fallen trooper,
The hero who saved lives today while sacrificing his own.
the suspect was also killed. Authorities have not yet discussed the possible motive. Kevin Uretsky, Fox News.
And former Nebraska U.S. Senator Ben Sasse on Tuesday announcing he was diagnosed with advanced pancreatic cancer. The 53-year-old making the announcement on social media saying he learned of the diagnosis last week. Sasse was first elected to the Senate back in 2014.
On the rally.
Shooting happened around 2 o'clock. It sounds like there was an active shooter situation, and that trooper was trying to put a stop to it. And unfortunately, a Delaware State trooper has been killed while trying to stop an active shooter in the DMV. We also know the shooter has now been confirmed dead as well for 2 days before Christmas.
Crown University placing its police chief on leave as the Department of Education launches an investigation into
7-1, the Eagle.
rights advocacy group Ag for the Future. Major chains like Walmart, Macy's, and Home Depot are using facial recognition to spot offenders. It's a new discussion back. Digital rights advocacy group Fight for the Future. We're heading backwards if we allow companies to start implementing technology without any real regulation or law enforcement to protect our rights. One concern is that it can be shared with other retailers to ban people who might be wrongfully accused. Last victim reported. This is professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
1020 KDKA out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
What I do best. This staple stick provides soothing, long-medicated Vicks vapor. And I think it's a bright stick and a fresh back, so there's no mess. And you put the compromise.
Of course, 1010 is bleeding over. 1010 wins.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking road trip with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore, and every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
The roads are being safer with fewer changes.
Just take us our test. Sophia Hall, 10-10 wins. Joel Embiid is out of the lineup. Tyrese Maxey with 20 more in his last 16 home games. That's playing better as of late.
MVP out of Chicago.
8 games since December the 1st after starting the season 3-16. Pick up the action in the second quarter. Michael Porter Jr.
Chicago
Second
MVP.
best defensive rating the month of December. Porter gets set to go, and a foul is called. 4-point play opportunity for Michael Porter Jr.
Michael Porter Jr. would finish with 28 points in the game, 5 rebounds, and an assist. We talked about Joel Embiid. He did play in this game. Moving into the third quarter, though, a scare for the Sixers.
Here's Mann knocking down Embiid. Oh, Embiid fell on his right knee. He is writhing. He is holding his forehead in pain. Joel Embiid hurt. Terrence Mann ran into Embiid. Embiid is going to be helped upright by McCain and George. And Joel motioning that he's going to need to come out. Nick Nurse taking a timeout. So the ball was in the hands of Maxey, and this occurred away from the play. Let's see as Embiid runs down the court, and he trips on Terrence Mann. And it was totally inadvertent. Mann was going to cross the lane. No timeout here. Embiid, though, going to the dressing room, and Joel kind of entangled into the feet, if you will, of Terrence Mann. And Joel leaves the game and goes to the dressing room.
That was on
hospital.
now, when you listen to the parade.
900. I have no idea what this is. I get mixed.
If you ever rode a banana seat bicycle, you're in the right place. I want to ride my Passport Radio.
There you go. Just like that, it went away. Wow. Wow. This can went. Definitely was not Philly. Definitely was not Philly. Philly is gospel. W-U-R-D, the word. It was not that. Sometimes I get Mexican music, but that's not Mexico. That's Tennessee, I believe. If they're talking like news talk in Spanish, Mexican, then that's Mexico, which I haven't gotten yet. I get Mexican music. So I believe that's from Tennessee or somewhere in the South. There's two Mexican music or regional Mexican stations. So it's from somewhere from the South. Now remember, this fills the void for CHML, which is very strong. He's coming very strong all the time. As early as afternoon, it will come in. But they went off the air about 2 years ago now. So no more CHML. So right now, I get, for a while I was getting Philly, gospel station. And now I've been getting a couple of, regional Mexican music type thing. I know TV Radio 1972 picked up XEW out of Mexico City, I believe. I have not picked that one up because that's news talk. So it's voice, it's speech. It's not. There's no music in that one. That format I have not heard in Spanish here. So I think in my case, I'm picking up, I believe it's a station either in Tennessee or one of those, it's in the South somewhere. Or South Carolina, I forgot what the hell was that. And they play Mexican music. That's what I hear. And I even heard the call sign one night. But I didn't record it. So I'm getting that. But it's not Mexico. I wish.
Randall with 25 points. Dans une assemblée. Et on peut aussi dire à quelqu'un qu'on trouve arrogant, mettons, qui est un peu trop audacieux en osant.
CJBC out of Ontario.
Mais l'audace, de quoi s'agit-il au juste? Est-ce que c'est la même chose que le courage? Est-ce que c'est similaire à la témérité? Sinon, en quoi ces trois notions-là sont différentes? On va tenter justement de voir plus clair ce soir. Pour le moment, je peux dire que j'ai compris ceci dans mes lectures de la semaine. Dans le cas du courage, on ne choisit pas les événements qu'on affronte et pour lesquels on suspend notre jugement momentanément. Par exemple, on ne choisit pas de sauver un enfant d'une noyade, non, l'événement se produit et on se garoche à l'eau. En revanche, pour qu'il y ait audace, il faut qu'on choisisse les situations à affronter et les moments avec les
Was it French?
de changer de carrière ou de amoureux ou donc
trying to get KOA out of Denver, Colorado, but that's a tough one. That's a long haul. The only other 850 I get is Connecticut. But I can't really hear it right now. Now, when I get Denver, Colorado, that would be a first for me. Yeah. If I hit coast to coast, it could be Denver, but yeah, I need my laptop here so I can verify it. Denver, Colorado.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Johnson Space Center for today's press conference on this morning's activities aboard the Russian space station Mir.
A few weeks into Michael's mission, NASA summoned journalists to their base in Houston.
As you've probably heard, there has been an event that occurred on the Mir last night, our time, right around 4 a.m. Central Time, or maybe slightly before.
The crew of Mir were fighting for their lives.
The Russian managers decided they wanted to have Vasily and Sasha try and fly a cargo ship without using radar. Well, this is a terribly, badly thought-out experiment. When you bring a spaceship in, you're both traveling at about 17,000 miles per hour, and Vasily, not using the radar and not knowing how fast it was going and not knowing how far away it was just looking out the window and at the TV screen to try and fly it by remote control. So I went off to the back of the Mir, which is where it was meant to dock, looked out to a tiny window, and I said, I can't see it. Well, that told me something was wrong. At that moment, there was a big ka-thump. I saw the walls of the station move around me. At that moment, I did think I was going to die, because I thought it was going to rip the station open. And then I felt my ears popping. I thought, oh, cripes, there's a hole in the station. We are going to asphyxiate it at a certain point.
we had to stop the leak, and Sasha and I disconnected all these power cables so that we could put the hatch in place to stop the air going into space. The consequence was that we cut off all the power, and the batteries ran down as we went into darkness. And at that point, the station goes dead.
With no electricity, the stabilizing gyroscope stopped working, and the station began to spin uncontrollably. Now the solar panels couldn't collect power from the sun and recharge the batteries. But there was a Soyuz escape module attached to Mir, and Michael remembered a tale about a series of small rockets on the spacecraft called thrusters.
I had heard a story that you could use the Soyuz thrusters to stop the spinning of the station. Vasily initially rejected that idea, but I started to discuss with Sasha, the flight engineer, how one could go about using the Soyuz to try and stop the tumbling. And I'm asking these questions, how much fuel will we use? Oh, you don't need to know. I said, well, how much of what we need to go home could be used? And eventually we persuaded Vasily to go and try it. We got it basically in a slow spin that allowed solar rays to point to the sun. And about 2 days later, Russian ground controllers in Moscow were able to fire thrusters through the computer to stop the whole spin entirely. But during that time frame, of course, it hit the news. Of course, it was a big deal.
Jim Bergamo, KTRK-TV, ABC in Houston. In your mind, are the problems becoming serious enough and frequent enough to where you are concerned that maybe this is an unsafe vehicle?
The other question, the bigger question, of course, is what does all this mean for a future cooperation of the International Space Station?
Russia was very embarrassed by it, and the questions in the U.S. Congress were, let's just stop. You know, this is too dangerous to continue.
With the future of the joint space station hanging in the balance, it was up to the head of NASA, Dan Goldin, to convince the politicians.
I can't begin to overemphasize what we have learned. We believe we are going to have a much safer space station as a result of the experiences we have on Mir.
On the 29th of January, 1998, the US, Russia, Canada, Japan, and 11 members of the European Space Agency agreed to build a station with a similar modular design to Mir. Their deal set out NASA as the leader of the project's development, with Russia the second in command, and placed Bill Shepard at the center of a political storm.
Because the Americans were taking the lead on the bulk of the hardware that was flying in space, one of the stipulations was that the Americans would provide the commander, and that was going to be me. And so this was really interesting because here I was getting ready to fly in space with two highly experienced cosmonauts, Sergei Krikalev and Yuri Kudzenko, both of whom had spent many, many months in space. My total flight experience was less than 3 weeks. And so the Russians were not super happy that some American new guy was going to be in charge.
The Kremlin did win one concession. As most of the station's systems and modules were derived from Mir, the majority of training would happen in Moscow and in Russian. To help integrate the crew, NASA sent 26-year-old instructor Ginger Carrick to the Russian training base in Star City.
I grew up in a household where I wasn't allowed to cross the street. I had to be in bed before the sun set. So when I flew down there for my first trip, it was a little intimidating. I remember seeing guards by the Coca-Cola machine, armed guards, and I thought, oh my gosh, where have I landed? So I get there and I'm meeting with my very first instructor, and they could not have been more welcoming, more charming. They were great.
Despite the warm welcome, it soon became clear there was a problem. The Americans were finding it difficult to bond with the Russians.
They would be very reluctant to maybe invite you over to their apartment for dinner. And this, I think it's because they, for the most part, knew what Americans had when we were back in the U.S., and they didn't want to basically showcase how little they had. They were ashamed.
And we thought, you know what? There's a basement in the cottages where our astronauts were living. And we thought, that would be a good place. That would be a great place.
I had always wanted to have kind of like a bar where we can just, it doesn't matter, you can let your hair down.
there was a bar somewhere in Houston that was closing. So we went over there and, oh man, they had a lot of stuff that they were just going to give away. So we put all this stuff on the plate, a pool table, a piano, a couch, and we got all of that to Star City, and then we set up the bar.
Just hours before the grand opening, Ginger received a mysterious message.
The NASA office phone rings, and it's a person on the end of the line who is a personal assistant of a very famous actor. He would like a tour of the training facility. He's a huge space fan. And I'm like, shut up, who is this? And then the individual pulls up in the car, walks out of the car, walks to me and introduced himself, and I was surprised to see Tom Hanks. And I said, hey, today's the grand opening of the bar, and I made a cake and everything. And so I explained to him what we've done, and he says, oh my gosh, yeah, I'd love to stay for the grand opening of the bar.
He's sitting on the top of the bar, and I don't think he was able to have alcohol, and so he's drinking orange juice. So I came in, and the bar's full of people, and there was Tom Hanks.
We had a great party, and he signed the bar and took pictures with everybody, and it was just, I couldn't have planned that. And you can't make this stuff up. It was awesome. It was such a good day.
Shep's hunch proved right. The bar became a hit with the whole Expedition 1 team, regardless of nationality.
But it really turned into a good thing because the Russians would meet at the bar, for a little debrief and a few libations. They would do that at the drop of a hat. And this became a really functional venue for smoothing out any of the issues that we might have.
I cannot read Arabic, but hello, my friend.
Even today, the bar is still in operation in Star City.
Main engine start. 6 engines up and running.
On November the 20th, 1998, the station's first module, Zarya, blasted into space.
Liftoff of the Proton rocket and the Zarya control module. The International Space Station is underway.
2 weeks later, the American Unity module docked to Zarya. Further missions added technical hardware, food, water, and the crew's living quarters. And on October the 31st, 2000, the station was ready to receive its first residents.
Good morning, everybody. This is Mission Control Korolyov. Welcome to NASA's live coverage of the launch of the first expedition crew to the International Space Station.
You were basically underneath a low cloud. The shuttle never would have flown that day because we want to have optical tracking of the shuttle, so if we can't see it, we can't launch. But the Russians said, hey, no big deal. This is not something we worry about. We're good to go.
Here the crew members are walking out of basically the crew quarters. Bill Shepard, the commander of Expedition 1, along with Yuri Gitzenko and Sergei Krikalev.
For launch day, you have to board a bus. But before you board the bus, there's some rituals that have to occur.
Also the traditional blessing before the crew members head over to the suit-up room.
This man in full priest garb comes out, and he takes this thing and dips it in water and starts blessing them. But he's spraying water all over the place, all over everyone, and people are like diving, and it was just hilarious. And it's getting up the crew member's nose. It's just, what's happening? So once the crew members got blessed, then they could go downstairs and get in the bus. I didn't have children, but I thought, I wonder if this is what moms feel like on the first day of school when the kids get out of the bus. Because it was just, oh my God, it's really happening. They're in the bus.
And now the crew members heading out for the trip to the launch pad, known as Site 254. It's actually the very launch pad that has been used for every crewed launch from Baikonur, including that of the first human to be sent into space, Yuri Gagarin, almost 40 years ago.
You're in the middle of a crowd of 400 people, right at the base of the rocket. Now, this is a fully fueled, ready-to-go machine. It's about 1.5 million pounds of stuff that wants to go boom, and you've got 400 people right at the base of it. yelling and screaming and drinking, and some of them are even smoking. I mean, if you had to do this in Florida with a space shuttle, you wouldn't find more than 5 humans within 3 miles of that thing, just because it's so dangerous. But here you are, we're 400 of your best friends right at the base of the rocket. That was pretty surprising.
I'm in the launch viewing area, and now I got there just before the crew gets out of the bus, and they start walking up those steps. And as soon as they got up those steps, they pose and they take that final picture. And then the camera feed cut off. And I don't know why, but then I start hyperventilating because I can't see them anymore. And I don't know what happened to me, but I couldn't breathe. And there was a Russian general. He starts parting the crowds because it was pretty thick. And he's like, "It's the mama equipage, it's the mama equipage. It's the mother of the crew. It's the mother of the crew." He pops me in front of this TV that's even closer to the launch than I was before. And he's like, "See?" You know, in Russian, "See? Это хорошо. Все нормально. Everything's okay. Everything's okay." And I'm like, "Okay." But I felt like the biggest dork on the planet.
T-minus 30 seconds. Now 30 seconds away from the launch of the first expedition crew to the International Space Station.
It got to be 10:30 in the morning. The time was right. They punched the button, away we went.
Liftoff of the Soyuz rocket, beginning the first expedition to the International Space Station and setting the stage for permanent human presence in space.
You're listening to the documentary from the BBC World Service. United in Space, the story of the International Space Station continues in a moment.
The BBC World Service is made possible by American Public Media as the largest station-based public radio organization in the U.S. APM offers award-winning content to audiences everywhere. The BBC World Service connects audiences to the world. From international news to arts and culture programming, listeners hear global stories and perspectives not heard anywhere else.
This is Brian Lehrer. When WNYC's federal funding was eliminated, it marked a turning point for the station. Now more than ever, we're counting on listener donations to sustain the trusted news and thoughtful conversations we try to bring you. You can't defund the truth, but you can defend it. Please consider a tax-deductible year-end gift. Call 888-376-WNYC. And thanks.
I'm Dr. Alice Bunn. Join me in a couple of minutes for part 2 of United in Space, as we explore the history of the International Space Station, the moments of intrigue and triumph.
They're planning on fixing my multi-billion-dollar spacecraft with cufflinks made out of plastic and tape.
And the times of tragedy.
Certain engineers in Mission Control concluded that it wasn't anything to worry about, but they were absolutely wrong.
As United in Space continues after the news.
BBC News with Eileen McHugh. The Premier of the Australian state of New South Wales has promised further reforms after the local government passed sweeping gun control laws. Chris Minns said the state had been changed forever by last week's mass shooting at a Jewish celebration at Bondi Beach, which left 15 people dead. Russian authorities say 2 police officers have been killed by an explosion while trying to arrest a person in Moscow. An official statement said the suspect also died when he detonated a device near a police car. The U.S. State Department says it will deny visas to 5 Europeans, accusing them of leading efforts to censor Americans online. They include a former EU commissioner who helped formulate the bloc's social media regulations. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro says his government has received overwhelming support from the UN Security Council. He was speaking after an emergency meeting of the Council on the U.S. seizure of tankers carrying Venezuelan oil. There have been renewed calls for the Trump administration to move more quickly in releasing all files related to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. China has sent a special envoy to try to mediate a ceasefire between Cambodia and Thailand. A statement said Deng Xijun had visited the 2 countries hoping to restart dialogue. Bangladesh is gearing up for the homecoming of Tariq Rahman, the acting chairman of one of its major parties, BNP. Mr. Rahman, who is the son of the former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia, has been in exile for 17 years. And today marks the 100th anniversary of Winnie the Pooh, one of the most beloved characters in English literature. The first story about the honey-loving bear appeared in the London Evening News on Christmas Eve, 1925, written by A.A. Milne. That's the latest BBC News.
I'm Dr. Alice Bunn, and you're listening to the documentary from the BBC World Service. This is United in Space, an exploration of the past, present, and future of the International Space Station. On October the 31st, 2000, 2 Russians and an American made history.
Liftoff of the Soyuz rocket, beginning the first expedition to the International Space Station and setting the stage for permanent human presence in space.
Called Expedition 1, they began 25 uninterrupted years of humans living in orbit.
We have initial contact of the Soyuz capsule with the Expedition 1 crew to the International Space Station. Contact occurring exactly
2 days later, on November the 2nd, 2000.
See, that's my point about the BBC World Service. Sometimes, see, when they do stuff like this, when they do documentaries like this is what I like. It's not lefty. It's not biased. They're recording history. I love this. And take care, Elmer Time. Hitting the sack. Good night, everybody. Yeah, I know. Well, good night. Well, not me. Good night, everybody. Well, good night, all you radio operators and all that. Thank you, Elmer Time. Radio Friend TV. Hello. Merry Christmas and best wishes from Germany. Yeah. Merry Christmas Eve right here. Merry Christmas Eve. But hello, my friend. Radio Friend.
It was a buzz. There were people everywhere and cameras everywhere. We celebrated.
So this is what I like about
the first 30
when they play
minutes
stuff like this. This is what I enjoy.
Like, okay, we gotta get this.
No bias. Just play this stuff.
Wait to see if I can help.
This is what I enjoy.
Once the crew had set up the essential support systems, spacecraft began delivering more components of the growing station.
Informative
Vast solar panels provided a much-needed energy boost. And in the Destiny laboratory, Shep and his crew began experiments.
The lab is a little over 30 feet, hatch to hatch, and it's full of bays for racks. We have
this is what I enjoy.
Here. We're going to put experiment racks in.
They investigated one of the ISS's fundamental aims, developing technologies crucial for future missions to Mars and beyond. Then, after 136 historic days, Expedition 1's time on the station came to a close, and Shep handed over the ISS to Expedition 2 and its first Russian commander, Yuri Usachev.
We pass to your care Alpha's log with the hope that many successful entries here are recorded, that explorations are prodigious and discoveries wondrous.
Awesome.
May the goodwill, spirit, and sense of mission we have enjoyed on board endure. Sail her well. I am ready to be relieved.
And I relieve you.
There was one thing that I wanted when we were all said and done. I wanted to land and to be able to walk away from what we had done, saying that we had played our role in helping to construct this vehicle in orbit, and, we did our job making this a reality. Bearing in mind that 8 years before, we had many, many people that said NASA and the space station program, it was not going to be capable of getting this done.
Over the next months, more modules and hardware were added to the station. With its large cargo bay and ability to carry up to 7 crew, the space shuttle proved crucial. But just as the space station was truly taking shape, tragedy struck. In February 2003, astronaut Scott Parazynski was acting as the crew family escort on a mission of Space Shuttle Columbia.
I remember taking the families to mission control during their shuttle flight, and the elation that the crew had, and how excited they were with how perfectly the mission seemed to be going. And we all expected them to come back to Earth to us.
TNC flight, everything looked good to you? Control's been stable through the rolls that we've done so far, flight. We have good trims. I don't see anything out of the ordinary.
Ginger Kerrick was working in the ISS mission control as the station's Capcom, the person who liaises between the crew and flight director.
So for landing day, it was just a regular work day for us, and we were pretty busy. And I'd had all of the shuttle communication loops up and was trying to listen to both my space station and the shuttle.
FYI, I've just lost 4 separate temperature transducers on the left side of the vehicle.
And I could hear the Capcom on the shuttle flight control room calling the crew.
Columbia, Houston, com check.
And no response. Calling the crew and no response.
Columbia, Houston, UHF, com check.
On the launch, a large piece of foam from our orange external tank separated, and it hit the left leading edge of the space shuttle, causing a pretty large breach. And so as the shuttle re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, going through this heating of re-entry, there's a breach through the left wing that led to a catastrophic failure in the entire ship, and the crew was lost.
Fido, do you have any tracking? No, sir. TC flight. Flight GC, lock the doors. Copy.
Just as I'm starting to learn what happened, our crew member calls down. And he says, "Hey, Jen, according to my watch, the shuttle should have landed by now. How did it go? How is everybody?" And I look at the flight director, and she's like, shakes her head, "Do not answer." So I just took a deep breath, and I said, "Give me just a second, and I'll check in with them, and I'll get right back to you, okay?" "Okay." That afforded us time to privatize the comm loop, because if I had answered then, everybody that knows how to tune into the live Space to Grounds would hear my crew member's reaction, and I wanted to protect his privacy. So then we privatized, and I called up and I said, "Hey, there's not going to be a landing today. There's been a horrible accident."
We're devastated.
And that's the most dangerous part of re-entry.
But our thoughts and our prayers
the re-entry is the most
go
dangerous
out
part of the whole
to the families of Rick and Willie, and David, and
got the re-entry
Michael
at the right
Laurel,
angle.
and
It's like very
These were my
unforgiving.
friends, but I was not allowed to have an emotionally based response right now. I needed to be strong.
In this case, there was
So we had a little comm gap. It was about 5 minutes.
I remember
long.
it was
I got up, I
a
went
couple
to
of
the
tiles
restroom,
fell
I
off.
cried for 3 minutes. I timed myself.
So the fact that
and
the
then I
tiles
gave
fell
myself 2
off,
minutes to get myself back together and went back into the
it
control room.
made the
and
re-entry,
continued.
you know,
It was one of the
the
worst
space shuttle
days
was vulnerable.
that I had ever
You got a
experienced.
few missing
working.
tiles.
It probably was the worst day.
That's all it
shuttles
takes.
were immediately grounded, halting the construction
The
of the
re-entry
ISS
basically
and
it
leaving
burned a
NASA
hole
with
through
no way of
the
exchanging crews or sending supplies.
fuselage of the shuttle, and they
Our Russian counterparts, whatever we
you
needed,
know, destroyed the
they came
shuttle
through.
as
A
a
vehicle
re-entry.
to get our guys home and a plan to get that vehicle,
Very
food,
unforgiving.
water, here, whatever you guys need. Can't ask for more than that.
With the shuttle out of operation, all crew and supplies used the Russian Soyuz. But this meant stripping back missions. There was no further construction.
How the shuttle is
Crews
at?
were reduced to just
It
2
has to be
people,
perfect.
and all scientific experiments were
Shuttle is a
suspended.
great thing, but it had to be
Colonel
perfect
Scott
when it
Parazinski
re-entered.
was made part of the
Any
team
little flaw,
investigating the Columbia
it can be
disaster,
catastrophic.
and they came to a damning conclusion.
And that's the problem with the shuttle.
What led to the Columbia accident really was what pilots call get their itis. There was a real urgency to finish the International Space Station program. They wanted to turn the space shuttle as quickly as possible. It led to ignoring issues that had happened in recent flights. So this wasn't the first flight that pieces of foam had come off of the space shuttle. Because of that, certain engineers in mission control concluded that it wasn't anything to worry about, but they were absolutely wrong.
With some questioning if the ISS would ever be completed, NASA carried out meticulous safety checks on the shuttle. 3.5 years after the accident, they finally cleared the spacecraft to restart building the ISS. Even then, it was far from a straightforward task. In October 2007, one of the first missions returned to the ISS.
T-minus 16 seconds, sound suppression water system has been activated.
It was essentially the final major assembly mission of the International Space Station from the U.S.'s perspective. So we were going to be delivering the Harmony interconnecting module.
Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery, hoisting Harmony to the heavens and opening new gateways for international science.
With its multiple docking ports, Harmony would allow the Japanese and European space agencies to attach their modules and complete the ISS.
As an added degree of difficulty, we'd be moving a large solar array truss from the top of the space station. It was called the P6 or Port 6 truss. It had its solar panels retracted, and we would be unbolting it, and we'd then install it out at the very tip of the space station.
Discovery 7 miles downrange at an altitude of 2 statute miles. Flying at 600 miles per hour. Discovery's engines are
on the mission. We had just installed the P6 solar array truss out at the very tip of the space station. We were just elated that all of the most difficult tasks, or so we thought, had been completed. But as we floated inside the laboratory module of the ISS, everyone was hunkered around a small little CCTV monitor, and they were trying to zoom in to see the solar panel that we had just installed.
In ISS mission control, Ginger Kerrick had been promoted to flight director.
I am just, walking around. I'm thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch, and I'm watching the television screen as this thing is unfurling, and it maybe gets 2/3 of the way out, and you start to see it rip.
It could rip apart. It could damage the space shuttle or the space station. We could have another Space Shuttle Columbia situation on our hands. So what ensued was 72 hours of brilliant work in Mission Control Houston.
This young man runs in, and he is carrying this plastic rope that is wrapped in white tape that has 2 plastic ends, and it looks oddly like a very large, poorly manufactured cufflink. So he shows me this diagram, and he says, if we can install these cufflinks in these specific areas, we can restore the structural integrity of the array, and then we can continue to deploy it. So I'm like, you're planning on fixing my multi-billion-dollar spacecraft with cufflinks made out of plastic and tape? Yes.
Then they looked at the inventory that was aboard the International Space Station. It was sort of an Apollo 13 moment, really, when you think about it. And they found that they had some 12-gauge wire. They had some aluminum shim stock. They had special insulating tape. Within a matter of a few short hours, they came up with this really cool plan to build 5 cufflinks.
Okay. How exactly do you propose to get our crew members up there to install them?
075 Zulu time. Good morning from OK1 KPU 73, my friend. And Merry Christmas to you and your family. God bless you.
Too tall? And he's like, yeah, too tall. So we used to nickname
God bless you and your family. Merry Christmas.
Because he was too tall to fit in the sleigh.
And have a wonderful and happy New Year.
Nearly 30-meter boom with my spacesuit boots in a foot restraint. But it does take a little bit of concentration, because if the movement of the robotic arm is a little abrupt, it could actually spit you out. And that would be a really bad thing, especially if you're in close proximity to the solar panels.
And I was worried about electrical arcing because his suit was metal, and they had to tape parts of his suit with Kapton tape. I was like, are you mummifying my crew member with Yes, we are. And it's just like, what? He had to have thought we were absolutely insane.
It was the best day on the job ever for me. I had a 45-minute one-way commute to work. I had this incredible God's eye view of the shuttle as well as the space station and our beautiful planet below. I had a tool in my hand that I called the hockey stick that would allow me to keep the solar panel from floating in contact with my spacesuit. And so at that point, I decided, well, hang on a second. I can use it to very delicately pull the solar panel towards me a little bit, and I think I can probably try and get the first cufflink in. Very soon it became clear that this was actually going to work. I remember calling it down, and I could hear people in mission control cheering. It was one of those moments of elation that all of us felt.
He did it, and it worked, and they're still holding it together today. Today. This was in 2007. I always tell people the story, and I say resist the urge to turn down the crazy, because I really just wanted to send that young man out of my meeting like, you are absolutely nuts. But I didn't.
With the solar arrays working and Harmony connected, the European and Japanese space agencies could attach their modules, creating the configuration of the ISS that exists to this day.
Landing gear down and locked.
With construction of the space station now complete, the shuttle was finally retired.
Having fired the imagination of a generation, a ship like no other, its place in history secured, the space shuttle pulls into port for the last time. Its voyage at an end.
But the incident that Scott had encountered does reveal an ongoing threat to the ISS.
I was able to bring the piece of frayed guide wire that had caused the problem back to a laboratory, and they were able to detect tungsten and other signatures that made it very clear that this was a piece of space debris that had clipped this guide wire just perfectly. And that was just enough to cause parts of the solar panel, as they unfurled, to catch and generated a rip in a couple of places on the solar panel.
Our species' exploration of space has left millions of pieces of debris orbiting our planet. This space junk ranges from defunct satellites and spent rocket boosters to minuscule flecks of paint and dust. Travelling at nearly 18,000 miles per hour, even the smallest can inflict massive damage on any craft circling our planet, including the ISS.
Radar systems do track the larger pieces of space debris, and if there's an anticipated conjunction, that's the terminology that's used, the space station will actually perform essentially an evasive maneuver, so they'll move out of the way the best that they can.
Small steering thrusters on one of the Russian modules have been crucial to the station surviving for 25 years in the unforgiving environment of space, allowing the international partners to understand how the human body reacts to weightlessness and the engineering that could power exploration deeper into the cosmos.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
But since 2020, there's been a big change on the ISS.
1, and liftoff, Falcon 9, go Axiom.
Private companies have begun flying crews to and from the space station.
Together we expand what is possible in low Earth orbit. Ad Astra and Godspeed AX2.
One of these is Axiom Space, and one of their missions included a very familiar face.
And we have our first views of the Axiom crew members floating aboard. First is Commander Peggy Whitson at the helm. These astronauts are in good hands.
5 years after retiring from NASA, Peggy Whitson, the Queen of Space, returned to the space station.
When I left NASA, I just made the assumption that that'll be it. And I knew there were companies out there that were trying to go into space, but I never had any idea that 5 years later I would be commanding a commercial space flight to the ISS. It's been somewhat overwhelming, and Frank told me I couldn't cry, but I was like, if I say anything that means anything to me, it's going to happen.
Right now. He's a
And it was just incredible to me that in such a short period of time, I was flying in space again.
SpaceX.
We felt at home while we were here. Thank you, and I will be back.
Peggy's return wasn't motivated by personal glory, but a desire to build upon the discoveries made on the ISS
government entities can't make money. So ISS is limited on some of the things that they can do on board their station. Part of the thing that drew me to Axiom Space was the idea that we were going to take so much of this really cool research that I had been part of on ISS and take it to the next level, to do manufacturing, actually making products. That was a big draw to me.
The idea of making products in space might seem very alien. But orbiting 400 kilometers above Earth, the ISS has an extraordinary advantage. It experiences virtually no gravity.
Convection, buoyancy, how our molecules and how our atoms interact is all impacted by gravity. Now, when you go up into space, the gravitational force of the Earth is reduced, and so that takes gravity out of the equation. So fundamental physical forces can be completely changed.
As Chief Scientific Officer at Axiom Space, Lucy Lowe's job is to identify products that will benefit from being made in zero gravity.
The crystalline structure, how the atoms actually align themselves in space, we call it more perfect. They form better alignments, they have fewer defects. And what that means in terms of their application is that then they have increased yield, they have better efficiency. So if you're talking about a fiber optic cable, you're actually talking about the increase in the efficiency of conduction of the signal through that cable.
Faster fiber optics would revolutionize communications, while making atomically perfect semiconductors in space could lead to faster, more powerful computers. The station also offers the ideal environment to grow stem cells, which could be used to treat heart disease, diabetes, or neurological conditions like strokes. And some believe we could even grow entire human organs in space and use them for transplants.
On Earth, if you layer up a bunch of cells, they're just going to glob down into a blob and sink to the bottom and collapse under their own weight. Whereas when you're in space, that doesn't happen. So you can create larger tissue constructs that can then be used as a bridge to organ transplantation. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on the ground to understand how we incorporate different kinds of immune cells, different kinds of vascular cells, so that we can have blood flowing through those tissues. But there's a lot of really exciting and promising work going on that could lead to that path eventually in microgravity.
The possibilities for humanity are enormous. But there is a problem. The International Space Station has already entered its final chapter.
The Russian flag now flies above the Crimean Parliament here in Simferopol.
Since 2014, Russian aggression has led to a souring of relations.
President Putin has announced a major military operation against Ukraine.
The first explosions were heard here in Kiev shortly after 5 in the morning.
The governments of other partner nations have placed Russia under economic sanctions, causing the Russians to threaten to crash the ISS or to pull out of the station altogether. Then there are mechanical problems, like persistent air leaks and areas weakened by metal fatigue. For these reasons, the ISS is scheduled to be decommissioned in 2030 and crashed into the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And with the present fractured state of geopolitics, it seems unlikely that governments will come together to fund a new international space station. But Axiom Space may have an alternative.
With flight hardware in Turin, Italy, flight systems in Houston, Texas, and operational confidence in low Earth orbit, the next era of human spaceflight has already begun.
Axiom plans to launch the world's first commercial space station by 2028. And their first module will head towards a very familiar object.
We'll send up our first module to dock to the International Space Station. It enables us to pull across stuff from the ISS that no one wants to lose. There's a lot of equipment that has a long life left that could be useful for ongoing research and continuous operations.
Saving the ISS's lab instruments will continue the space station's scientific legacy. But this docking will be short-lived. The Axiom module will have to uncouple before 2030, when the ISS is deorbited.
Once that detaches from the ISS, we'll be adding more modules to the Axiom station. So we'll have an airlock, we'll have another crew habitation module. As we build out the station, we can make sure that we're incorporating the most up-to-date tech We can make sure that we're adjusting to what the market needs are. So if we see that there's a huge upswell in interest for countries to have crew up in orbit, we can add additional habitation modules as needed. If we see that one of the areas of manufacturing, biomanufacturing for stem cells takes off really quickly, we can add an entire module that is dedicated to stem cell manufacturing. So we're able to adapt as we go along based on what the market is essentially going to drive.
Humanity is standing on the cusp of a new space revolution, which could propel our species to new possibilities and technologies. Thanks to countries uniting to create the International Space Station.
Liftoff of the Soyuz rocket, beginning the first expedition to the International Space Station.
It's a living, breathing organism. It's something that the Expedition 1 crew breathed life into.
Crew now reporting 30 meters, 0.2 meters per second closing rate.
And it blossomed into this wonderful symbol of what humanity can accomplish when we work together. So that's what it is to me.
All going very smoothly with this final approach to docking. Standing by for contact.
Our species will benefit from the ISS's legacy for years to come. As a new generation of space stations, both commercial and state-run, carries on the work begun by the ISS.
We definitely feel like we're going to be standing on the shoulders of giants.
I need to make my ISS contact before 2030.
Capsule with the Expedition 1 crew to the International Space Station.
So I need to record one.
The ISS has been a pinnacle of human achievement, and it is really a testament to humans working together and doing really difficult things.
2030 is going to be over after that.
On the ground, and Russia, the United States, and all the partner countries that have worked long and hard to make this possible. It's a great moment for all of us.
United in Space was presented by Dr. Alice Bunn, the producer was Duncan Bulling.
Very good.
It was a 2
See,
Degrees West
BBC, when they do
production
stuff
for
like
BBC World
this,
Service.
it's very good.
On the next Brian Lehrer Show,
I don't like when they go lefty, but this is a good
say what the holiday means to you.
documentary.
Why it's not
Excellent.
just about Christmas trees
See that?
and Christmas presents. We'll invite listeners
Thank
from
you,
any
BBC,
Christian
for that.
denomination to
Thank you very
describe
much.
how you observe the day and how it fits into your overall relationship to your faith. That call in and others on the Brian Lehrer Show, weekdays at 10 a.m. on WNYC.
You're listening to WNYC. Through the early morning air, we'll see temperatures at just about the freezing mark. The rest of today, high reaching about 40 this afternoon. It's going to get pretty windy today, gusts up to about 35 miles an hour. For tonight, partly cloudy early, mostly cloudy later, lows about 30, wind dying down later on tonight.
This is WNYC, FM, HD, and AM, New York.
At 9 hours GMT, welcome to the newsroom from the BBC World Service. I'm Celia Hatton. Coming up, the state of New South Wales and Australia meets for an emergency parliamentary session to pass new gun control and anti-terror laws just 10 days after a mass shooting targeting a Jewish Hanukkah event.
Sydney and New South Wales has changed forever as a result of that terrorist activity last Sunday. And we know it's our responsibility to do everything we can to keep the people of New South Wales safe.
We'll speak with our Sydney correspondent. Plus, we'll go live to Kyiv. Ukraine reveals the latest draft settlement deal it's discussing with the U.S. in hopes of ending its war with Russia. Big changes afoot for U.S. diplomacy as 30 American ambassadors and senior diplomats are pulled from their posts. And yodeling like you've never heard it before, straight from Switzerland. All that after the news.
Hello, I'm Eileen McHugh with the BBC News. The Premier of the Australian state of New South Wales has promised further reforms after the local government passed sweeping gun control laws. Chris Minns said the state had been changed forever by last week's mass shooting at a Jewish celebration at Bondi Beach, which left 15 people dead. Senator David Shoebridge represents the state of New South Wales for the Australian Green Party, and he explains what new state laws mean and gave his reaction.
For the great bulk of people in New South Wales, they will have a maximum of 4 firearms that they can obtain, and for people out in rural and regional parts of our state. The cap there will be 10. But many gun control advocates, and myself included, say that 4 guns is still too many. So I think there is an ongoing need to review that cap and actually bring the cap down to a maximum of 1 and ensure that those weapons are not as lethal as we saw in that terrible mass shooting.
President Zelensky has revealed a draft deal to end the war in Ukraine that has been negotiated with the US and is currently being reviewed by Moscow. The 20-point document includes security guarantees for Ukraine from the US, NATO, and Europe, but the question
the like
as to
button.
whether
Thank you very
Russia will
much.
keep any Ukrainian territory
Happy
is still unresolved.
Christmas Eve.
Under the new plan, Ukraine would stage a presidential
Merry
election as
Christmas
soon as
Eve.
possible
And
after
thank you for
signing
watching,
any
and
deal.
Merry Christmas and Happy
Addressing
New Year to
reporters,
all.
President Zelensky said all sides were much
Thank you for
closer
watching.
to
God bless you.
finalizing the documents. The Russian authorities say 2 police officers have been killed by an explosion while trying to arrest a person in Moscow. An official statement said the suspect also died when he detonated a device near a police car. Rachel Wright reports.
Witnesses described an explosion that happened around 1:30 a.m. local time. Russian authorities said 2 traffic police officers saw a suspicious individual near a police car on the city's Yeletskaya Street. When they approached the suspect to detain him, an explosive device was detonated. The 2 police officers died from their injuries along with the suspect. The attack comes just 2 days after a senior Russian general was killed in the same part of Moscow. General Fanil Savarov died after an explosive device which had been planted under his car was detonated.
The United States has signed 4 new health agreements with 4 African countries, which total nearly $2.3 billion in funding. The U.S. State Department said the memorandums of understanding with Madagascar, Sierra Leone, Botswana and Ethiopia set clear benchmarks to tackle a range of infectious diseases. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro says his government has received overwhelming support from the UN Security Council in a deepening dispute with the United States. He was speaking after an emergency meeting of the Council called to discuss Washington's seizure of tankers carrying Venezuelan oil. World News from the BBC. There have been renewed calls for the Trump administration to move more quickly in releasing all files related to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The latest tranche of documents published an email alleging Donald Trump had traveled many more times on Epstein's private jet than had been previously reported. Senior Democrats say the releases so far have been staggered because they make the president look bad. Mr. Trump has consistently denied any wrongdoing. China has sent a special envoy to try to mediate a ceasefire between Cambodia and Thailand. The Chinese embassy in Cambodia said Deng Xijun had visited the 2 countries and hoped the deadly border dispute would be resolved through dialogue. Defense chiefs from both sides were due to meet on Wednesday. Bangladesh is preparing for the homecoming after 17 years in exile of Tariq Rahman, the leader of the country's largest political party. Hundreds of thousands of people are expected to line the streets of the capital Dhaka, where Mr. Rahman will land on Thursday. He's been in exile in London since Sheikh Hasina swept to power in 2008. Today marks the 100th anniversary of one of the most beloved characters in English literature, Winnie the Pooh. David Sillitoe takes up the story.
This is the first tranche, but an important tranche of reforms in this state in relation to protest legislation, extreme hate symbols in our community, and also the toughest gun restrictions of any jurisdiction in the country.
And the American golfer Brooks Koepka has become the first major winning player to quit the breakaway LIV League. The 35-year-old said he wanted to prioritize his family. Koepka joins a lucrative Saudi-backed competition 3 years ago for a reported $100 million. That's the latest from BBC World News.
Hello, I'm Celia Hatton, and you're listening to the Newsroom on the BBC World Service. Let's start in Australia, where 10 days after a shooting at a Jewish Hanukkah celebration, killing 15 people, the legislature in New South Wales has passed new gun control and anti-terror laws. State politicians met for an emergency session to pass the legislation on Christmas Eve. The new laws limit the number of guns individuals can own and ban the public display of terrorist symbols. The police have also been given new powers to curb protests. There's been broad public support to make many of these changes, though critics argue the laws go too far in limiting personal freedoms. The Premier of New South Wales, Chris Minns, defended the measures, saying his government would not apologize for taking tough action.
This is the first tranche, but an important tranche of reforms in this state in relation to protest legislation, extreme hate symbols in our community, and also the toughest gun restrictions of any jurisdiction in the country.
Our Sydney correspondent Phil Mercer told us how the state was restricting gun ownership.
This is pretty fast legislation introduced by Australia's most populous state. What it means is that recreational gun license holders will now only be able to possess a maximum of 4 firearms, and owners will have to have their license reviewed every 2 years. There will be exceptions for, say, farmers and sporting shooters, but these are pretty tough restrictions on those recreational license holders. And the state government insists these measures are necessary to protect peace, safety and security, really in response to community unease about gun ownership and, of course, in response to the atrocity on the 14th of December.
Phil, gun ownership in Australia is at a record high. Do you think other parts of Australia will follow?
Well, they've already started in Western Australia, for example. In the last couple of years, they have moved to limit gun ownership. And in the last 2 years or so, gun ownership in Western Australia is falling. We understand that the state of Victoria is also considering reforming its gun legislation. So what you have here in Australia is really a patchwork of gun regulations across the 6 states and the 2 territories. On top of that, you have the overarching federal government, and the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, says that the federal government is considering tough new gun measures too, including that gun buyback he announced last week. So guns that will become illegal in this country will be able to allow owners to hand them in to the police and to be compensated for that. So we get the sense that at a local and a federal level, there is immense appetite for this type of reform.
Now, Phil, just turning back to what's happened today in New South Wales, other legislation's been passed targeting what can happen during protests. Can you take us through that?
This is anti-terror legislation also tabled in the New South Wales Parliament and passed by lawmakers. This would essentially give the police new powers to curb protests. Now, there is a lot of disquiet among some community and political groups that this is overreach, that this is eroding Australians' democratic right to protest. But the state government here in New South Wales says that if you take, for example, the very large pro-Palestinian rallies that we've seen in Australia in recent times, the authorities believe that that has helped, or they have helped, to foment growing anti-Semitism in this country. So under the new legislation, for example, if there is a terrorist attack such as the one we saw 10 days ago, there will be a ban on large-scale marches for 3 months, and the police would have additional powers to stop others. So safe to say, the gun lobby doesn't like the gun control measures, and civil libertarians don't like these anti-protest measures, but the government says it's forging ahead with this because it simply has one ambition: to make Australians safer.
Phil Mercer in Sydney. As we approach 4 years since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the Kremlin shows no sign of stopping its attacks. On Tuesday, officials said 3 people, including a young child, were killed in a massive overnight Russian drone and missile strikes on Ukraine. There have been repeated calls for a Christmas truce, which Russia has apparently rejected. But now, President Zelensky has revealed 20 points of a draft settlement deal that's currently being discussed with the U.S. We can speak to our correspondent in Kyiv, Samira Hussein. Samira, this new draft deal, can you tell us what's in it?
We've always known this draft deal has been kicking around, this 20-point peace plan, but speaking to reporters, President Zelensky really outlined in detail what is in this plan. And we know that territorial concessions have been a major roadblock when it comes to any of these peace talks. Well, now President Zelensky is saying that he is open to the possibility of creating a demilitarized zone along the current battle lines, and that would be monitored by peacekeepers. Now, this would be his preferred option. Nevertheless, he's also suggested a willingness to discuss the creation of perhaps a free economic zone in Donetsk. But that possibility comes with a lot of provisions, including a full withdrawal by Russia and Ukraine. But really, this is significant because it's the first time we're really hearing about territorial concessions. And although Ukraine is sounding quite upbeat about this plan, it still needs to go to Russia.
So we're hearing these new details. What do you think we can read from this? Does it signal a breakthrough is closer?
Well, that's certainly what Ukraine and its allies are suggesting. I mean, if you look at all of the comments that we've been hearing from Europe and from the United States post the peace talks that we had over the weekend, people are sounding really upbeat. On the other hand, you know, all of the noise coming from Russia in the past has suggested an unwillingness to negotiate any kind of territory, that Russia has really been clear about wanting to take large parts of eastern Ukraine. So where this particular peace plan goes to, I think, is going to be the big question when it comes to what the Kremlin decides.
As I mentioned a moment ago, there's no Christmas truce as some had hoped for. What's the mood in Kyiv, but also on the front lines?
I think in Kyiv, you know, there has been a few weeks of relative calm, but that was really rocked yesterday when you saw that there were more than 600 drones flown all over Ukraine, and two of which had made an impact in Ukraine, or in Kyiv rather, and I think that was really quite jarring for residents here. Look, it is Christmas, and there's a real attempt to try and mark the holiday season. But as President Zelensky has said, that, look, we know that it is, quote, in Russia's nature to attack during this holiday period. And we've certainly seen that over the last few days, particularly in the eastern and southern regions of Ukraine.
Samira, thank you. Samira Hussein speaking to us live from Kyiv. Well, despite the war, many Ukrainians will still be celebrating Christmas, and some of the decorations they use during this period have become symbols of national identity, as Abigail Ackerman has been finding out.
I'm here at the Songs for Ukraine Christmas concert in London, where just inside are Ukrainian choirs performing carols to raise money for the front lines back in Ukraine. The choir is dressed in traditional Ukrainian clothing with vibrant and symbolic embroidery, and the church is filled with people who have come to watch the sold-out performance.
It gives us as Ukrainians together, it gives us the strength to fight, I think.
Christina is a Ukrainian refugee here in London and a member of the Songs for Ukraine choir. After the performance, she told me more about Ukrainian traditions, with some unexpected characters.
This Christmas time, making some Christmas decorations, some stockings, spiders from straw.
The word pazuk means spider in Ukrainian, and these geometric mobiles made of straw and thread create shadows that look like cobwebs when a candle is placed beneath them. They are hung in the home at Christmas time.
The pavuk, or the spider, is an ancient and very important symbol and part of any Ukrainian Christmas.
I spoke to Maxim Kartafet, Associate Professor at Austria University, to find out more about the tradition.
And it was re-established 19th century, but still many proofs of this tradition was found even before in Ukraine. Today, the main symbol is the main idea of the Christmas spider, this
construction and mobile, it's like a very ancient symbol of the creation of the world.
Antonina is a friend of Christina's still in Kyiv. She told me about how these festive cobwebs are part of Christmas celebrations in Ukraine, despite the ongoing conflict.
This talk almost was forgotten. Just in some regions we had it, and now it's like people trying to find out their roots and find out their traditions of some places like culture hubs or museums, even bookstores. They are like trying to sell it and also trying to show how to make it. If you want to do it yourself, you are just putting this, we call it spider, but you are putting it up in your apartment. Very traditional to do it before Christmas, and it can stay in your apartment as decoration during the whole year.
Despite festivities, the war rages on, and after attacks on infrastructure, more than 1 million households have been left without power this December.
Now it's like very specific because we have these blackouts, and usually like you need to renew the schedule to cook, and unfortunately during the Christmas time Russia attacks us, so it's like you never know how you spend your night, because if it's like really heavy attacks for Kyiv, we usually go into shelter which is near our apartment and spending there the whole night.
The use of spider decorations at Christmas may seem unusual, but these ancient symbols of protection are more important now than ever to Ukrainians making them at home and those that have fled.
Abigail Ackerman, you're listening to the newsroom on the BBC World Service. Well, the U.S. State Department says it will deny visas to 5 European citizens, including a former top EU official. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, accused them of leading organized efforts to coerce American social media platforms to censor, demonetize, and suppress American viewpoints they oppose. The newsroom's Richard Hamilton reports.
Top of the list of the 5 Europeans is Thierry Breton, the former tech regulator at the European Commission, who's often clashed with tycoons such as Elon Musk over their obligations to follow EU rules. Mr. Breton has been described by the State Department as the mastermind of the Digital Services Act, a major piece of legislation that imposes content moderation and other standards on social media platforms operating in Europe. The DSA has become a bitter rallying point for US conservatives who see it as a weapon of censorship against right-wing thought, an accusation the EU furiously denies. Thierry Breton said the ban was a witch hunt and compared it to US attempts to suppress alleged ties to communism during the McCarthy era in the 1950s. Among the others being targeted is Annalena von Hodenberg, the co-founder of the NGO Hate Aid.
The target clearly is the European Union. The target is European sovereignty, and the US is trying with this move to obstruct the enforcement of European law on American corporations within European jurisdictions. They are attacking us because this is precisely what we are doing with our work. We are trying to comply with the rule of law here in Europe, and the US government has for months now tried to obstruct the enforcement of European law on US American social media platforms here in Europe. The accusations of censorship is used to silence those who stand up for human rights and freedom of expression. We need to decide if we can enforce it here in Europe or if we are too intimidated by the US government not to do it.
Earlier this month, the EU fined Musk's ex $140 million for violating DSA rules. It said the blue tick verification badge was deceptive and did not ensure the users were verified and actual people. This provoked a backlash from the US government, which suggested that key European businesses such as Accenture, DHL, Siemens and Spotify could be targeted in response. Washington is also attacking the UK's Online Safety Act, which tries to impose content moderation requirements on major social media platforms. Last week, the White House suspended implementation of a tech cooperation deal with Britain.
Richard Hamilton. The Trump administration has told 30 of its ambassadors and senior diplomats that they'll be removed from their posts next month. Officials have said the move will bring the U.S. State Department into line with President Trump's America First policy. John Dunkelman is the head of the American Foreign Service Association, which represents U.S. diplomatic workers. He told my colleague Rob Young what he made of this decision.
When the American presidency changes, all American ambassadors submit their resignations to the incoming president. As one can imagine, those who are politically appointed and aligned with the previous president are allowed to resign. Their resignation is accepted and they are sent on their way. More often than not, it is accepted practice that the career diplomats, the civil service, foreign service types, are asked to remain for the duration of their original assignments. Where this activity this week departs from the norm is that all of these individuals who are now being summarily separated were actually encouraged by the administration to remain less than a year ago. This kind of situation is unprecedented, where the entire top echelon of civil service leadership within our foreign affairs structure is being struck down and presumably sent into retirement, all at a moment's notice. There is no rhyme or reason to this. The nature of the assignments, which cover the entire world, would not lead one to believe that these individuals had done anything incorrect.
A senior State Department official has been quoted as saying that the president wants to ensure he has individuals in these various nations who advance the America First agenda. Is there something about the way various senior diplomats behave that means they aren't supporting this America First agenda, that they're doing something else?
Absolutely not. The Foreign Service of the United States has always been there to execute the policies and purposes of the United States government wherever they may be assigned. It is our core precept to make sure that we are doing the bidding of our president. So the question is what in the world happened all of a sudden?
Patty, who wrote the book on the exorcist?
Faces what?
Fuel economy. The economy of the year engine is running smoothly and trouble-free, even in the cooler temperatures. Hot Dust is your easy to plug with. Need them.
See, you're so...
There you go. You can hear some music. And that is Cuba. Radio Progreso, 640. You can hear Cuba. Not a good night tonight. I barely hear it, but that's Cuba. All right, there you go. I'm going to sign off now. Thank you for watching, everybody. Have a great Christmas. Merry Christmas. And have a Happy New Year. God bless you all. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Love you all.